happens. Here, we'll get some music going. Yeah.
This is royalty free, right? We're not going to get
DMCA
for this? Okay.
No, it's royalty free.
Next thing you know, freaking Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters is like, hey.
Yeah, I know. Where my money at? Where my money? And then what's the other guy? Lance? Not Lance.
The dude from Nirvana?
Or not Nirvana, from Metallica.
From Metallica, yeah.
Ulrich?
Lars Ulrich.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Lars Ulrich will come and be like, where my money at?
Yeah.
Where my money at? Brian, where my money at?
That's right. I'm tired of you ducking me, man.
Yeah, I'm tired of you ducking me, Brian. Where my money at, Brian? I love Family Guy. Greatest show ever. Hey, you want to hear something funny? I haven't watched the South Park in like 2 years.
Oh, it's been a hell of a long time for me.
I literally thought that they stopped making them like 2 years ago, and I just found out the other night that they've been going strong. Like there's 2 brand new seasons. I was like, dude, how have I not seen this?
Yep.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to
Hello.
Tech Talk, the techiest talk show on the entire internet, where we only talk about tech. Yeah, TikTok. I don't know, get the rim shot.
Hey, that's cool.
Actually, I don't know. So
I hear it.
You do? Okay, so if you hear it, then everybody should hear it. I'm thinking because I'm pulling the here. Be quiet for a second. Let's see if it shows up on the histogram. It does.
That's tight.
It does. We got sound effects. Oh my god, this program is just going to the moon.
Rad.
It's going to the moon. So welcome. Everybody looks like everybody's popping into the chat here. We got a how's it going? A sup and a hello everybody. And am I scary? Inverted. You guys are inverted today? I don't know. Is that
I'm on the left.
Is that a sexual reference? No, just kidding.
Oh no, my video is on the left.
Oh. Well, shit. I don't decide. It's whoever joins the VDO session first. Oh, Jack Ander painting, just throwing that money at us like a bunch of cheap strippers.
What up? Thank you very much.
Late vaccination advocation monies. Now that my new card showed up, rock on, dude. You know what I do? I'm living in the future. I do it the digital way. I got the digital card on my iPhone.
Same.
So if the battery goes dead, they're gonna tackle me and tase me.
I think I do have the actual. Like that's got the stickers on it. I think it's in my passport.
Just in case. I might have put it in my wallet. Like
I got the Clear, I think it's called Clear app. That
at
least it works for Washington stuff. Like if I go to a concert or something, they can just like boop.
Yeah, I just did it on the phone because like when I went and got my booster, they gave me like another card, and I was like, I don't want to carry like 5 cards to show that I got my first 2 shots of my booster, but it's all consolidated on the iPhone.
I was gonna say I think you can take them both to your primary care, and they'll cut you one that's got the whole record on it.
Oh, I'll do that next time I'm going.
I'm pretty sure because like I've heard like, oh man, I lost like the first one, and I got my second one, and then like they have a record of it, so they can, your primary care doctor or whatever can put you out a whole record of them. I mean, that goes for all of your vaccinations and stuff.
That's true, right? You can get an immunization record or whatever.
I think I still have like the funky. It's like brown. It's like this really soft brown paper. It's almost like a little pamphlet book from when I was, really, really little for all of like my baby ones and then up to middle school. I think I still have that around somewhere. It's real
That's cool. Yeah, I don't think I have my original immunization record anymore, but I had to get all the ones that you had to get to go to school. Like
kids, the MMR and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then I had to get the rest of them when we had our son because he was immunocompromised. So
just like
he
a
was
refresh.
born, I'd go in and get like a bunch. I had to get tetanus and whooping cough and all kinds of stuff. So basically, I could walk around in the sewer and just breathe in the air, and I'd be like perfectly fine. That's how vaccinated I am.
Right.
Speaking of vaccines, did you see their human trials for an AIDS vaccine?
Super.
An HIV vaccine.
Yeah.
But yeah,
cool.
That's awesome.
And like they've had really good therapies and stuff, or like it's like
the therapies are like super safe and you live a totally normal life.
You might as well. It's like you have like next to no viral load anymore and stuff like that. Like it's practically cured, which is freaking amazing. It only took,
had a lady
40 years.
Yeah, like I think we talked about this last time. There's a lady that was first lady, it's happened to 2 men before, but a lady where they did a bone marrow transplant and she had like full-blown AIDS, completely gone. They couldn't find it anywhere in her body. They searched, they took blood samples from all different parts of it, could not find it. They said that she is the only woman so far that has been cured, and they're studying the phenomenon, but it happens so rarely. They don't really have a good sample set to test with. But they're like, it has something to do with the bone marrow. When you get the bone marrow transplant, they think that the cells that are created by the bone marrow are resistant to the HIV virus. And so, because some people just have a natural resistance to it, but you never know about it because those people don't get it.
Yeah.
And if they don't get it, they're not going to go to the doctor, and they're not going to test why they have an immunity to it. And they're sure as hell not going to just start infecting people looking for somebody who's, immune to do it.
Oh, that's seroconversion. Yeah. I've seen that tossed around.
So what a trip, right? They give her this, and a couple weeks later, it's like she's like, oh man, I haven't even been taking my meds because it hasn't been bothering me. I haven't been having any problems with lesions or anything like that. And they're like, yeah, you literally do not have AIDS, lady.
Awesome.
You're cool. So we got the vaccine coming for that. We also potentially have a cure on the horizon that they're testing right now for that also. Awesome. And they got the therapeutics. So that's why you don't hear about that. If you wonder why you don't hear about AIDS very much anymore, here in the United States, it's still a big problem. It's because we have it under control. We have for a long time with drug therapy.
Yeah.
It's
awesome.
Pretty wild though, man. That we got, and we've got a vaccine. I just found out a couple of months ago that we have a vaccine for HPV now.
Oh yeah, that's been around for a while. Gardasil.
Okay.
Yeah, Gardasil's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't.
I remember them having commercials for that back when I was in middle school and stuff. They had
it wasn't available when I was a teenager, so I never actually got it. But I probably will when I go in for the next round of vaccines just to have it, because it's my son, he has it because 1 in 3 people contract it.
Yeah.
HPV is one of the most
I want to say it's one of the most spread. Technically STDs, right?
It is, yeah. But the thing is, it doesn't show problems till you're older.
And you can get it and not even realize it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it can cause all kind of weird cancers and stuff, but tends to be benign in general.
Yeah, but it takes so long for it to manifest itself that by the time you figure it out, it's you could have had it for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And not know about it. It's how many people did you pass it on to?
Right.
So just getting everybody vaccinated, it's awesome, right? It's free for all, everybody in the pool. But anyways, medical science is getting a big leg up from the COVID thing. So if we take one positive away from the mRNA boost and research that we got, is because the vaccine for the AIDS is mRNA based.
Cold sore is technically a herpes simplex virus.
Correct.
But
yeah, the herpes.
I digress. Yeah. So if any of y'all have ever had, you get a weird little fucking thing on your lip or whatever, congrats, you got herpes.
You got herpes.
Yeah. It's
so bad. Everybody has it. It's
there's different kinds, how hepatitis has ABC. There's different kinds of the herpes simplex virus.
Genital herpes is different than the herpes you get in your mouth. So, but people get that confused and you have herpes? No. What? No,
I remember
the mouth herpes is a little different.
This shit went around again, middle school, oh, Nikki's got a cold sore. Oh, she got a herpes, blah, blah. And it was people just trying to be mean.
It's no, everybody has the mouth herpes.
You got that from Kyle, making out with Kyle or whatever. I imagine mono was a big thing back in probably my dad's age and stuff.
Mono.
The kissing disease, right?
Yeah. What do you think is parents bought into that crap too?
This is great. I just want to jump right on this because this is a good question. 10 Holt 2015 in the chat here. He says, "Hi, a tech talk question: is Yubiko security key overkill for a normal private user?"
No,
I would say no. I want one myself just for fucking simplicity's sake.
No,
a hardware password key. I just plug the fucking thing in. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't think so. It's $45. Just do it.
Oh God, you can buy a clone. You can buy a clone that does the exact same thing for $10.
Yeah.
It's a long standing standard.
If there was some way to do it with my phone, I would do that. If I could just have it all built into my phone and just 2-factor authentication that way kind of thing, where like my Google account. If I sign in somewhere weird with my Google account, I get a bing on my phone and say, "Hey, was this you?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Yep," and it just works. I want that. I want that for all the things.
Yeah, the thing is, you kind of already have that with your phone with 2-factor authentication because you have a rolling key, right? It's just with YubiKey, you just plug it in and it just does it, right? You have the software package that automatically does it. And you have the rolling encryption. It's similar to smart cards that you'd have in a business to gain access to the door and stuff, or to log into the network. It's YubiKey is similar to that technology. But the only thing I worry about a little bit with YubiKey is if it breaks.
Oh, physically.
If it physically breaks, because you can't clone it. You can't clone the YubiKey.
There's got to be some way of recovering, some way of going, "Hey, oh shit, my key broke."
Well, the thing is, they don't want it to be an easy recovery because somebody could just call and be like, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so. Here's my birth date, my social security number, my password. Can you give me my code again?" And then people just social engineer the hell out of that. So it is a hard process to get. But like two-factor authentication. Have you ever tried to recover an account where your two-factor authentication app got deleted or something? It is a pain in the balls, dude.
That's why you always gotta have that one email address that is like the recovery account for them all.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to keep that one with some random ass weird password that is not attached to anything else.
Yep.
And so you can still get at it.
Yeah.
Where do you find YubiKey clones for $10? Probably eBay.
Actually, I think it was Amazon. I looked at it last time. Here, let me go take a peek. I kind of want to get one.
Google make a USB stick that does the same thing? Yeah, I think it is actually based off of the UB standard or whatever. Like it's their own clone of the key. That's the one I was thinking of. Is like the one from Google is like $45.
Yeah, so even Yubiko has one for $25. They have their expensive flagship one that's $45. They have the Fido, which is $25. What's that?
Just $45, man. I guarantee all of you have spent more money on stupider shit. You know what I mean?
The really cool Ubi key, though.
Pardon my French.
No, the Ubi key that I really want to get is the Fido 2. Go look that one up. It's $55. Fido. It's $5 more. Ooh,
Fido.
It's got 6 digits on it. You have to actually put in a code by pushing the digits on the physical thumb drive to unlock the Ubi key, and then the Ubi key can authenticate. So even if you lose the Ubi key or somebody physically steals it from you, without that code, they can't use it.
Yeah, see, that's cool. I like that. You got to beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. And then
I mean, there's some really cool stuff. Let's see. There's crypto hardware wallets. Where's the knockoff?
Biometrics will be the future. It'll be the only way to make these systems individualized. As much as I hate to think this will be the future, I think it will be. Yeah, in some ways, yeah, I'm sure. Like a lot of my stuff on my phone, I log in with my thumb. You know, which I'm sure is not the most secure thing to do, but at the same time, like I would so much rather lose my wallet than my phone. Like,
oh, totally. And yeah, with as much information as we have on our phone,
everything is there. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be easier to get your credit card replaced because even if you lost your credit card in your wallet, you still have it on your phone.
Yeah, it's a 30-second phone call. Or I pull up the app, I can lock the card. Boop. And it just does. I hamstring myself doing that. I locked my my Amazon card so that because it's on my Amazon Prime account and I didn't want to accidentally charge the Amazon card by accident, and so I paused it, and then I went to actually like deliberately use the card, and it's bouncing and say, oh, it's denied, you can't do it, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Oh, that's right, I forgot I got to pause the card.
I've done that before.
I forgot. I'm like, what do you mean it's not it's not expired? I put the key in, all the code and stuff. I'm like, oh, dope.
The funniest ones though, are like when you sign up for a site that's like a little bit shady. And it rejects your credit card, and then you get a call from the credit card company. They're like, "Hey, we show a charge on here for like CC bill or something like that. Like, did you make this charge?" And you're like, "Damn straight I did, man. Let that through." Because so many people steal credit cards and use them for that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
I was trying to buy something, and like the website was hosted in India. Or like their payment processing. Paranoid. Yeah, I think the payment processing was hosted in India, and the purchase wasn't going through. And I'm calling up. I'm like, I'm on the website right now. Like, what's going on? And as far as like the card people were concerned, there's like you could do this. Like as far as we're concerned, it's fine. I don't know why this isn't going through or whatever. And I'm like, well, what the fuck, man? I don't know. And I don't know if I ever figured it out.
That's another thing. Like if you don't call your bank, like most credit cards don't matter. Like if I use my Costco credit card, no big deal. But if I leave the state and even go to Oregon and try to use my debit card, immediately it blocks it and says it doesn't go through. And the company calls me within like 5 minutes and they're like, we show a charge out of state on your credit card, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, that's me.
Yeah.
Why are you blocking my transactions?
I was one of the first times we went to Mexico. No problems, right? We're buying stuff from the hotel gift shop and stuff, or like out and about buying lunch and things. And then we were at this it was like a regular store, like something like a chain thing that would have been in the US as well. And that's the one that got flagged. We'd been there a couple days already, no big problems or whatever. And I think we tried to like buy McDonald's or something in town. And that's the one that got flagged. And our card got like temporarily frozen for it. But I'm like, dude, we just spent like $500 or something all over the freaking place, and you're gonna stop it because of the MACD's charge?
Yeah.
Like,
no,
what?
They make weird decisions. Like
So weird.
About 3 years ago.
And buying stuff from MACD's is not an uncommon purchase. Like we do that
Not
here
at all.
pretty often, you know.
Yeah,
Everybody
everybody does.
Weird. It's like, why that one?
So what we found out the hard way like 3 years ago, and I think they defend against this well because I haven't seen it since, is basically the problem is if you steal a credit card and you go into a store physically and try to use it, and that store is like far away from where you made your last purchase, they think, wait, you don't have teleportation technology, so how could you be in these two places, and it triggers something in the system. However, there's a loophole to it that they found out, and that is if you do an online purchase to the store at the location and then physically go pick up the goods.
That's
so
smart.
People were doing this with Target. They were ordering a bunch of school supplies. So my wife's card got hit by like $800. The thing pops up on her phone. And it's like, $800 purchase, at this location or whatever. Disregard message if this wasn't you. And she's like, this absolutely wasn't me. Somebody actually did an online order like on the East Coast for $700 or $800 worth of school supplies. It was, they literally went through and looked at the charges, and it was school supplies. It was like pencils, binders, books, just a massive amount of it. And we're like, what are people doing with this stuff? Like the resale value on it isn't high. Like the only thing I can think of is that they're buying it at one store and then taking it to another store and returning it. But then wouldn't they credit it back the card and not give them cash? Like, so I still don't understand the end game on what they were trying to do by buying like, it was pet stuff. It was Petco. That's what it was. It was a bunch of pet stuff.
I know there was some scam. I working at Starbucks that people were doing that kind of thing. Like they'd use a stolen credit card to buy a product, like a cup, like a bunch of cups or something, at one store, and then you take the products to another store, and generally they won't, like, they're not going to give you cash. But they would ask to have it returned as gift cards, Starbucks gift cards. And then what you do is you sell those for cash. And usually at a 50 cents on the dollar or something. And
that makes sense.
Especially around the holidays and stuff, we'd hear about it like, oh, these people are trying to do this same scam every year. Yeah. And eventually you just get to a point like you can't return this, like, oh, I'm sorry, you bought this at the whatever store, like you have to return it to that store. Sorry. And then that's how they'll get you, is like, because they'll have pictures and stuff of the weirdos who are doing that stuff, and they're like, oh nope, gotcha. Dude,
I've had,
and that's probably how it works.
So I've had like some weird Ocean 11s level stuff happen to me. Dude. Like before Xander was born, I got hit by an ATM skimming fraud.
No shit.
And dude, it was the most orchestrated. Like the detective called me on the phone and he's like, even for us, like the stuff that we respond to, this was like this is organized crime.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I was in Issaquah and I went to a bank. So these guys had the balls to put a skimmer on an ATM at a physical bank. So I go to the bank,
like out front of the thing. Yeah.
So if you guys don't know what a skimmer is, it's basically a piece of technology that is made to look like the card reader on an ATM.
Over the
and
slot.
It sits right over. It's very thin too. It's only like maybe a quarter of an inch thick, and it sits over the front of the actual reader, and it's held on with like double stick tape. And what happens when you slide your card through, it's reading the magnetic strip as the bank is also reading your magnetic strip and copying it to memory inside of it. And then later they come back and retrieve the skimmer. So what happened in my case is I go to this bank. I put in my card or whatever, and I get my money out and think nothing of it. And then within 8 hours, I get my bank account is completely drained, completely gone, $5,000 gone. Just I was like, and actually it was overdrawn. It was actually overdrawn on the account. I was like, how the hell did this happen? Like, so I called up the bank and I said, need to cancel this credit card. Somebody's robbing me. Or sorry, the debit card. Somebody's robbing me. And they're like, okay, hold on. We're opening up a case. We're going to send you an affidavit to sign that's, you're basically saying you didn't take this money out, and then we're going to go check the cameras. And so the detective, they restored all my money like immediately. Within a day, I had my $5,000 back because I basically told them that this is how much I actually took out that day. And then they gave me the rest back. And so the detective calls me. It wasn't even like a day later. He calls me on the phone and he's like, dude, he's like, okay, so first of all, you were hit by something called a skimmer scam. I'm like, okay, what is that? He's like, well, these people put a physical device on the machine that reads your card, and then they watch from a distance with a camera or to watch your PIN code that you're entering. And then what they do is they take your number home and they put that onto blank credit cards. They basically have a stack of blanks that they buy online. They put them into a credit card writer and they write your credit card information that was skimmed onto their card and create a clone of it. Then they write your PIN number on the card so that the person, when they're going up to steal your money out of the machine, they've got your PIN number handy for each card. So he said they pulled the video from like 6 or 7 bank locations where all of them coordinated over cell phones to walk up, and they were all wearing baseball caps and stuff to conceal their face from the camera. They all walked up to the ATM, all within like a 10-second period, all synchronized, putting in the card, entering the code, withdrawing the max $500. And they said because it was done at the same time, the bank calls and confirms purchases over modems, but because modems are so slow, it would take like 3 minutes for your transaction to go. So as long as all of them happen within that 3-minute window, they're all seen as one transaction. So they all paid out. And then when it all culminated in the system, that's when it tripped it and locked it out. And I called them up and was like, hey, oh, my money's gone. My card was already locked at that point.
Yeah.
And not only did they get me, though, he said when he pulled the video from all these different bank locations, he said, and they were all the same branches, like in different, like completely different cities and everything. These guys coordinated this attack. They were actually they had a stack of cards and they were just jackpotting one card, 2 card, and they were coordinating over the phone which card and which PIN number they were using the whole time they were doing it. I was like, dude, that is like some straight up gangster organized crime level stuff.
Yeah.
So each one was walking up to the machine and making off with like $3,000-$4,000 out of each ATM, and the entire scam took them like less than 2 minutes.
Yeah,
like I was just like completely blown away that they were able to do that.
I gotta say, man, like I know, like, so when I was younger, I made some bad decisions when it came to credit cards, but now that I'm better, and frankly, my lady handles most of the financial stuff anyway, credit cards is the way to go. Don't use debit cards. Debit cards are basically cash, right? And you don't have as much protection from like false purchases and things that way. Credit cards is the way to go. Yeah. Like by federal law, and like I keep seeing this Discover card commercial that like says,
nobody takes Discover though.
You're not responsible for any purchases you don't make. Blah blah blah. Like they're pushing it as like a benefit of the card, and I'm like, bro, this is federal law. Okay, all credit cards are super protected from fraudulent charges. Like you just have so much better protection from like theft and whatnot when using a credit card. It is plus you get all kinds of cool benefits and stuff. There's all kinds of like extras that a lot of credit card companies will give you that they don't talk about, like, you know, discounts and stuff. Like I get all kinds of cool deals through my Chase credit card that like, oh, I can get 10% off from FTD or whatever, flower places and this and that. Yeah. And again, like if nothing else, just the fraudulent purchase protection, boom. Don't use credit cards. Don't spend money you don't have. Pay off your credit cards every month with the cash that you have in your bank account. That's the way to go.
I
treat it like a debit card.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what it is. Like, don't spend money you don't have, but use a credit card, dude.
That's how we run the house. Everything that we can possibly put on the credit card goes onto the credit card, and my lady pays it off every month.
Yeah, like, no, I'll tell you why you want to do it that way instead of paying cash. Because not only does it build your credit card history, you usually get a percentage back on purchases from the credit cards. Yeah, like point system.
We have it's airline points, right? Airline mile points. But
you get a lot of airline points too. If you travel, credit cards are a big deal.
It's great. Like we actually, I think, I want to say our flight and most of our honeymoon was covered with points, because it's everything. It's the power bill, it's the gym membership, everything you can put on there is on there, but make sure you pay the thing off. Like that's the problem is people is not paying it off.
That gets dangerous. Yeah.
Try to stay under 30% if you can. But if you're just starting off, you're not going to have a huge limit to begin with. So whatever. But man, yeah, dude, it's the way to go. And you can get cash. Yeah, depending on the card you get, you can get 2% cash back every quarter or every year, or the airline miles thing or whatever. But it's the way to go. It's the way to go.
Airline. If you get an airline card, I've seen some of the cards that'll do like 1.5 or 2 miles per dollar. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's like you spend $1,000. That's 1,000-mile ticket. You could fly to the other side of the freaking country. Like,
some of the exchanges are a little whack. Like, you need 50,000 points to go to Florida for like a $500 ticket or something. Yeah, okay. Sometimes the exchanges aren't great, you know, for your, because it's not miles in how far you're flying. That is tricky, but yeah, check out nerdwallet.com. They have a great they spell out all kinds of different credit cards and the bonuses and benefits and stuff, plus just generally good personal finance.
The thing where credit cards really
advice.
help you, though, especially like when you're getting started and you're a young person, is when you finally get to the point where you want to buy a car or you want to buy a house or you want to buy something that nobody has the money to buy, you have to get a loan. Your percentage of interest that you pay is going to be directly based on your credit history. Yep. And so if you use a credit card and you pay it off constantly, and like what I did when I was building my credit is I had a card that I carried a balance on. And I just paid the interest. It was a small balance, but I paid the interest on it, and I paid just a little towards principal. And then I had the other card I paid off entirely, and that built my credit faster. Like somebody advised me to do that, and it built my credit. And I created a store line of credit before I could get a credit card because I didn't have a credit store. I went to Les Schwab Tires, and instead of buying the tires, I just opened an account with them. Exactly, I opened an account. I just paid their interest. I think it was like an extra $50 or whatever the course of a year. But I paid their interest, and just doing that, when my credit history report came back the next year, it's like my credit score like doubled.
Yeah.
So, and then when I went to get my house, I had a perfect credit score. And they're like, "Ooh, we're going to give you the lowest percentage you can possibly have." Whereas, like a coworker that I worked with, his interest rate was 3 times what I paid on his home loan because he didn't have good credit.
Yeah. So, and like I goofed it. They gave me $1,000 credit limit, at 18. And I went into it with the best of intentions and stuff. I was like, oh, I make enough, like I could just pay this off all the time. But what I goofed was I still used my debit card, which was not the thing.
Oh, where it's not building your credit history at all.
Man, you fucking tear up the debit card. Like it's cool to have direct deposit straight into your checking account and savings and stuff. And then auto payments, full balance. Do not look at your cash whatsoever. Man. And afterward, like it got so broken that like when I was really starting to fix it, the only thing I could do was get a secured credit card. So you give them cash, and they give you then a limit equal to the cash that they're holding on to. And then after, and this is going to vary depending on who you're working with.
Gift card at that point.
Sort of, yeah. It's secured, right? So if you default on the credit card, they just take it from the cash that they're holding on to for it.
Oh, and they don't actually use it unless they have to. It's like okay, it's just to cover it. Got it.
It's the collateral for the loan essentially. And then after a year or two, they will cut you your check. They'll cut you a check for the secure amount, and then you're free. Like it's a regular credit card at that point.
It's kind of cool.
They'll usually bump you up.
That was the thing. Too. That's cool.
They bumped my limit at that point as well. They refunded me the 500 secure. Now it's an unsecured credit line, and they bumped me to 1,000 or something at that point. And
yeah. The other thing is your credit limit too will get. The more you use your credit card, the more the limit will get bumped up. So like I found
sometimes you have to ask.
No,
like,
you do.
They'll give you auto bumps every once in a while, but if you ask them like, "Hey man, I've got a great record with you guys for like the last 18 months. Can we bump this to what?" I would recommend that you ask them for a limit. If you just say, "Hey, can I get a bump?" They'll probably only just do a little bit, like a couple $100 or whatever. But if you say, "Hey, can we bump this to $2,500 or something?" Like I'd appreciate it. And that looks good too, because again, if you keep under that 30% of usage, that looks super good.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you have a higher limit, that 30% is a lot more. So it's better to have a $15,000 limit and use like $5,000 of it than to have a $5,000 limit and use $5,000 of it, because that starts raising red flags.
Yeah.
So as long as you pay it all off, it's fine. But if you miss a payment or whatever and you get hit with the full interest on a $5,000 balance or a max balance, then that screws you on your credit history. But yeah, I've done that before. I called up a bank on my my Costco American Express or whatever. There was like a $5,000 limit, and I'm like, I was getting too close to the limit every month, and I was like, so I called them up. I was like, hey, I want to get boosted on my limit. I've been with you guys for years. They like just stopped me, and they're like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, and they boosted it to $15,000, and I was like, okay, sweet. Like,
right? Yeah,
like that's awesome. And then
I was shocked at
I'll do it.
The first limit increase that they gave us on the card. I was like, are you sure? Like, you guys are going to trust us with?
And if you're making more money too, like if you tell them like you and they don't even check. That's the funny thing about it, is you call them. I was like, oh, I got a raise, a 15% raise or whatever, and I'm bringing in this money, and then I paid off this collateral, so I have this much more expendable income. They'll just raise your thing up and just trust you.
Once you're in it, they don't often check again, because like they got you. they got you now.
Yeah.
Because like you're on the hook. Like it doesn't it's a risk thing, of course, for them, but risk assessment. But generally they're like, okay, sure. Yeah. Why not skip the extra step and just go debit card and spend the money? Because of the benefits. The benefits that you get for using the credit card.
No. Let me field this one really quick, because this I actually went through. This I went through. So if you don't use a credit card to buy everything and you don't build a credit history, because if you don't use credit, you will not build a credit history.
Yeah.
Your credit history doesn't just magically go to 800. Like if you don't have any credit, no creditor is going to want to take a risk on you. So what happens if even if you have $1 million in your bank account and you're spending it all debit and you don't build any credit history, when you go to get a loan for your $1 million mansion, the bank's going to be like, you don't have any history of use of credit, so you are high risk to us.
So put 20% down in cash.
Exactly. If we give you a loan, you need to put down 20% down, and your interest rate's going to be the highest it can possibly be. If you use a credit card to buy everything, and you just pay it off instead of using cash and use it like cash, but just pay it off every month so there's no interest. Then that goes on your credit history, and the loaner will be like, "Wow, you spend this much money every month, and you pay this off flawlessly every month." So you are an incredibly responsible person with credit. You're very careful with it. So we can trust you with a way lower percentage.
Yeah.
So, and that's how that works. And if you don't establish any credit, that's going to come back and bite you later in life, because there is always something you'll have to do that needs credit. Even renting a place. I tried to rent a place when I didn't have credit history when I was 17. And found a place that would rent to 16 or higher if you were basically like if you had a job and you were on your own. And I went in there and they're like, oh, you're gonna have somebody co-sign, because on the background check it shows that you have like no credit, like you don't have any credit. But if I had credit, they would have let me just sign for myself if my credit was decent, and they wouldn't even give it to me, not even at a high interest or anything. They're like, nope, we're not going to sign a lease with somebody who doesn't have a credit history. Right. And that's when I did the less Schwab trick, where I went and opened up an account because I had to replace the tires on my vehicle. And I opened an account, I paid it off over a year. And then after I did that, then I had my credit established so I could take over the lease myself. But yeah, it's like, you want a credit history. Like credit is really important to your life later on, not for carrying balance, not for going into debt. It's important for a different reason. And that is to get creditors to trust you on purchases that you have to pay off over time.
And there's some folks, and obviously not. This is not obvious. All of this is for United States stuff. It is very different. It's very different in the EU and whatnot, and that is cultural thing too. So, but yeah, it's this is all of United States advice.
Yeah, credit is actually it's very different here. It might not be other places in the world, but here it's critically important.
Which is, it's weird, but if you follow the rules, I mean, I feel like this is something it'd be good to have Kevlar on for.
Definitely. He'd be the one to know, right?
Yeah.
Get our multi-billionaire venture capitalist friend on here to tell us like how money works. He'd know. I feel like, I wonder, actually, that would be a good topic, because Kevlar Condom's going to have a different perspective on how money works than say like you or I, and on how to leverage money. His perspective is going to be a lot different, because the guy plays in 6 figures plus all the time. So like, I wonder how his advice would apply to a middle class someone. You know what I mean? You know what, the lessons that he's taught me, and even though I still haven't gotten a complete grip on it, but I'll pass them on to somebody who might, is the easy lessons he taught me is never do, like, pay somebody else to do what you're not good at so you can spend more time doing what you're good at. Like, that's always a good thing. So if you suck at your taxes, pay somebody else to do your taxes. That's
just for like a peace of mind, happiness thing, man.
Right, because you will make more money if you focus on the things that you're good at to make money, and then pay somebody else what they're worth, because they can do it more efficiently than you and better than you. So paying them will be less resources in the end than you wasting your time doing it. So that was number one. Number 2 lesson is, he said, spend the most money on your bed. Was it your bed, your car, your shoes? Was it your bed, your car, shoes? Basically, the things that you spend most of your time like resting and recovering and being comfortable, because those things happen. Your office chair.
I was going to say, I'm about to replace my chair. This thing's driving me nuts, and I feel bad because like I spent I don't know, like $200 on this chair. It's used. Yeah. Like I bought the floor model one, and like I'm just like, this isn't working. And so I'm about to do that. Good chair. Yeah, I agree with that. Good chair,
it'll make you feel better, and you'll be able to work more efficiently and be a happier person, and then that translates into better decisions and stuff like that. So
that's smart.
But the most probably one of the most important things he's told me is that money sitting still does nothing.
Oh, dude.
So like if you just let money sit, and I'm guilty of this, like because I'm afraid to invest. But he's like, no, money needs to do work.
Yep.
Like if you have money, use it. Like in his case, he's an angel investor. So instead of just sitting on a bunch of money, he'll invest it and take risk with it on a whole bunch of things and continuously work that money and balance it out and stuff, because money doesn't, if it just sits there, it does nothing. But if you use it, it can help other people and it can make you more money. So it's like you want to work. You don't want to just like be like Scrooge McDuck and fill up your money bin, because it'll only be that amount of money forever.
You're literally losing money. Look at the inflation.
Pretty much.
Just right now, like if I'm losing money hand over fist in a way, you know. But yeah,
if you took all of your excess income, like what would be considered like your disposable income, and you pumped it into say a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
So which gives you like, I think, a guaranteed return of like 3 to 5% or something. Sometimes it can be though like 11, 15, 18. I mean, depends on the year, right?
On market and stuff. Yeah.
So you put it in the Roth IRA
around 7 to 8.
Right. But it's like compounding, right? It's compounding. Like you make money, it keeps the money on itself, and now your new interest payment is based on the new amount. So if you pay your disposable income into it when you're 20, by the time you're like 40 years old, you can like quintuple your money.
I remember I was first talking about some of this real basic stuff on like, okay, now that, because like there's levels, right? There's levels. You got to get out of debt first. If you've got loans and stuff outside of like a house or student loans, things like that, but if you have like smaller, you got to take care of that shit first.
Right.
Then once you're got a good solid base, you start, okay, well now what can I do with this extra? And we started talking with my lady and I, and she's like, oh, I got, she's saved up great from after the divorce and things, and she's like 5 figures sitting in the bank in a regular savings account. And I'm like, man, you're losing money.
0.01%
or something. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm getting, I get like, I don't know, $100 or $200 a year or whatever. I go, no, check this out. And so we'll find you a high yield savings account. That's just a little baby step up. It's like 2%. Now you're getting that $100 a month.
Yeah.
And what happens is like there's different levels of like hiding or holding onto your money, and you'll get a bigger percentage, and it's always based on how hard it is to get the money back.
Yeah.
Right. So like the high yield savings account is actually, it's less than that now because of everything, but it takes like a week to move the money from that account to like a regular, to basically to liquefy it into make it easy to spend, because it's in a weird other bank, that kind of thing. But then you start talking like CDs, right? Or bonds, right? Those don't mature until 3 or 5 years or 10 years or whatever, but you're going to get a bigger percentage return because it's hard to get your money back. And then again, like stocks and bonds and ETFs.
401k is a good example.
Your 401k, your IRAs and the retirement accounts and stuff like that. It's harder and harder to get your money out of it until certain requirements are met, but you're getting a better and better return on that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then the other thing is like you can, like people like me, I'm no good at investment. I've tried it before. I've tried my hand at just like, oh, that stock looks good, I'm gonna buy that, and I lose my ass every time. So I haven't done investment in years.
Index funds, take the choice out of it. Yep. Let get Vanguard and Schwab have some of the best like either exchange traded funds or index funds at real low expense rates, like 0.1 or 0.01%. They take their shave off the top. Yep. And you set it and forget it. Set it and forget it, man. A couple $100 every month goes to that, and by the time you're 85 or 60 or whatever, you'll have $2 million. Just cut out, unless you're up to your eyeballs in that kind of thing, man. Don't or play a little bit like, ooh, hey, yeah, I think, I don't know, whatever, AMC is going to go up, but that's like your gambling money. Like this is the shit I'm going to throw down the toilet anyway. Kind of stuff.
There's some really, like if you go do some research, there's some companies like investment companies that you can pay them like a fairly high percentage. It's like 2%, but they have such a good, but you should see their records. Like they will literally not
like
take
Bernie
their
Madoff stuff, man.
Yeah, I know, but they will not take the 2%. They will not take the 2% unless they guarantee you the return of like 15 or 18.
Man, that's tough.
So they're betting on themselves too. They're like, listen, we don't get paid unless you get paid, and we don't get paid unless you make the minimum we promise to give you, which is many factors times more what we take.
All right.
But you have to find ones that are credible. You obviously don't want to do the guy that just started yesterday. You want to find these companies and guys that have been doing it for 20, 30 years and all their work is public.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to some people that have some, these pretty highly paid financial advisors, but once they have access to the money, they can move it a lot faster than normal people because they spend their entire day sitting there in front of the trade wall with all their bots and their algorithms. And they've basically trained the system to climb out of any hole. And it's like their own proprietary algorithms they don't share with anybody else because it's like a highly guarded industry. If you go online and you download like an open source trading bot, those can work sometimes and get you a little bit back and stuff, but they can also lose your ass too, because if the other trading bots come online using the same algorithm, they all end up fighting each other. So having your own custom algorithm that's tuned by you that nobody else on the network has can give you a decisive advantage. And there's a lot of YouTube channels where these guys have their own custom bots that they've tuned themselves, where they keep the tuning very secret. And these bots have huge return. Like even for day trading, which day trading is really expensive because you have to pay a fee on every transaction. You have to pay short-term capital gains, and you have to pay income tax. So by the time you're done, you're basically flushing 40% of you have to make 40% more than you spend just to break even. So it's a little bit of a dangerous game, but these guys create these bots that they trend these companies, and they look at all the companies that are counterbalanced to them, and they invest in such a way that they're like, okay, we think this is going to pop, but if it doesn't pop or starts going the other way, get out, lose the money, but then go jump into the competitor really quick.
Yeah.
And so they'll bounce back and forth and do hundreds of transactions an hour, but they'll average way above the 40%.
Yeah, I like to set
that's high risk though. Just that's high risk. You don't want to put it all into something like that. But I'm just saying it's good to diversify. You
don't pay transaction fees anymore. Day trading. I know a lot. Like most of the major.
Seriously, there's day trading doesn't charge transaction fees.
Like I know Schwab, TD Ameritrade. What's the E Trade? None of them have any sort of transaction fees anymore.
You have to,
and it started with
trading?
It started with, I want to say it was like Schwab started the no transaction fees on trades, and then everybody else kind of followed along.
But the rub is though they require a $25,000 or $30,000 investment, correct?
For Schwab at least,
because they have to be making. If they're not making off the transactions, they have to make the money off of the interest on your money in your account.
I make trades every once in a while, and I don't pay anything.
Really?
Yeah, and I have. Well, the value of my portfolio is around $2,000.
I might have to just go play around a little bit. I think it'd be fun just to even just take like $1,000 or $2,000. Because the thing is, every time I've looked at a day trading account, you had to fund it with like $25,000. And if you fell below that, they could kick you out of the market.
It might be there might be some restriction on how many transactions I can do in a day. I haven't looked that close into it. Like if I'm doing like 1,000 trades a day or something, then maybe they might get you. Data is what they collect. Sure, of course.
The thing I'd worried about is if it was free to do the transaction, then these bots could literally be doing millions of transactions a minute.
There may be, when you get to that level, they might start taking a piece off the top or something. But yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious! They sell the data to train the models. That's actually really that's actually funny because that's how you train. That's how you train machine learning, right? That's how you train. What do they call it? The Matrix. Or not the Matrix. What the hell do they call it? An artificial intelligence, where it's the model that learns patterns.
Yeah. The model.
Yeah. So the model or the model. That's what it is. Okay. So to train the model, it's like you don't just have to give it good data. You can give it bad data too. You just got to tell it what is good and what is bad.
Yes.
Because if you don't, then it could imply that the bad stuff is good. Exactly. So you have to train the model. It's just like if you've ever trained an image recognition model, which I did once for fun, you have to basically tell it, this is a cat, this is a dog. As a matter of fact, if you've ever done Google CAPTCHA, that's exactly what it is.
You're doing.
When you're doing Google CAPTCHA, where it's like, click all the images that are a fire hydrant, click all the buttons. You're training an AI to be able to identify those things in pictures in the future.
Then you go look at your Google Photos, right? And you start and you search dogs.
Neural net. That's what it is. A neural network. That's what I was talking about. Not a model, training the neural network.
Yeah.
So because the idea is if you click, if you say this is a bus and this is a bus and then this is a bus, you don't have to tell it what a bus is. What it'll do is it'll look at all those images and figure out what is characteristically the same about these images. Like, do buses have flat angles? Do they have a certain number of windows? Do they have how many wheels do they have? Like what they look like from different angles. And basically the neural network's going to learn after 1 million people click on the buses and don't click on the other stuff. It's going to know pretty damn well with a high degree of accuracy what a bus is, even if it's a brand new picture it's never seen before.
Yeah. And that's how the captures work too. Is like, okay, if you click wrong, like you try, oh, ha, that cloud is a bus.
Yep.
A million other people have said, well, no, that's not a bus. That's a cloud.
And if everybody coordinated together and clicked the wrong thing, the network would learn a cloud is a bus, just like a kid would if you told them.
That's that garbage in, garbage out. If you give it bad data, or you tell it enough times that this is a thing when it really isn't, it gets confused.
It is pretty clever, though, if you think about it, like on Google's part, that's like, oh, we're going to train our neural network by disguising something behind, are you a robot? But you're really training a robot to cheat that algorithm.
Yep.
It's what you're doing, because eventually you could use that same algorithm to defeat the CAPTCHA, because that same algorithm is going to be able to go, oh, that's a bus, and I know you think that's a bus because I think the same way. Which
they do. Those are called adversarial networks. So it's fun because they'll train because you train two different neural nets that way. One, like say as an example, one is generating artificial images of cats. So it has a model, it knows what cats are supposed to look like, and it's going to pretend to make a new image of a cat. It thinks it's right because it's got 1 million cat images that it knows are cats, and so I'm going to try and make a new cat, and then it shows that it'll send that image to a different net and go, hey, do you think that's a cat? And then this one goes, well, and this is another net that's being trained to identify cats. Right. And it goes, well, I'm 80% sure that that's a cat. And then a human has to confirm, because of course. And then back and forth and back and forth.
And if it starts going the wrong direction, then the network trains it away and says, no, that's looking less like a cat. That's not a cat at all. You're going the wrong direction.
I think the chat's a few seconds behind, because Michael Taylor here in the chat, he's like, if that were true, you could lie to it and it would poison learning. Yes, but it would have to be coordinated. You'd need thousands, especially with the Google CAPTCHA stuff. Like you'd need thousands and thousands, probably millions of people to all decide to like lie.
Do you ever wonder why they ask you specifically bicycle, hydrant, bus, and boat? Those are the four most common ones that you see. The reason being is because those networks have already been heavily trained by people intentionally training the network correctly, so that if somebody tries to train the network poorly, it'll catch on to that pretty quickly unless everybody coordinated together. Like if everybody had a phone and they all contact each other, said every time you get a reCAPTCHA, click a cloud if it asks for a bus, click this if it asks for a fire hydrant. If the 51% rule, 51% of the network lied to the neural network, the network would skew in the wrong direction. However, most people want to click the thing that it tells them to click, because if they click the wrong thing, it's potentially going to punt them out and they're not going to get what they want. So they have a high degree of success getting people to click the right thing. And as long as 51% of the network on average clicks the right thing, it'll let you through. And these networks aren't perfect. I've actually clicked on stuff where it's not a bus, it's an RV, it still thinks it's a bus because it's close enough and it hasn't trained it.
This is where I've caught Dr. Don Kinghorn's bug about being kind of persnickety about AI versus like machine learning models and stuff. Like you still have to kind of use the AI term because it's like embedded now into the zeitgeist of humanity. But they're not. They're really, like, it looks cool and like they're really smart, but they're only really good at like one thing at a time. Like they're not intelligent. It's not only fuzzy logic stuff. It's hyper focused. You can train you can train a machine learning neural net or whatever the fuck to be the best player at CS:GO ever. But you then try to use that model in Halo, it's not going to work. I mean, it'll work, but it's not going to be very good, because it's different. The algorithm, the model that is going to identify hot dogs is not going to be able to identify cats.
So true artificial intelligence has to be able to ingest data that is not foreseen. And be able to not only identify the patterns, but also categorize them and know when to use it and when not to use it without any external input. Just like a child, you give them an instinct and they use that instinct to grow and get more skills. A neural network doesn't do that for like image recognition. It's only going to, like, if you tell it, I think that's a cat, then it's going to know it's a cat or no, it's not a cat. It's not going to be able to say what breed of cat it is unless you have that granular of data. Like, do you think this is a leopard or do you think this is a lion? Then it can do that. But you have to be very very specific with the neural network, and the neural network basically will start deriving patterns, geometric patterns and colors and shapes to figure out like what is the similarity between these images, so that it can start making that decision just like a human would, looking at that looks like a cat, even though nobody's seen this image before. It's like you said, the adversarial network, right? If you can start generating things that have all the traits of a cat and the network identifies it as cat, it can start training itself. That starts becoming a little bit more like AI, but again, it only can tell the difference between what you told it in the matrix or the same.
What is trained, the data it's trained on.
Exactly. But a true AI is where you create something that's a blank slate that's able to go out and ingest all of the information. And even if it doesn't know what that information was, even if humans don't know what that information is, it can start inferring patterns and it can start putting things together and figuring things out just like a human would. Then you start getting into AI, where it's like all you do is you create the network in such a way that it's going across the internet and randomly ingesting data and saying, you know what? I don't know what a Hitler is, for instance, right? I don't know what a Hitler is, but it starts looking at all the images. I don't know what an explosion is. I don't know what war is, but it starts actually, it doesn't even know what negative or positive it is. It learns those the same way as a human would by going through and looking at imagery, hearing sound, and taking all of the inputs that are available to them and then looking at them and trying to figure out what is the most advantageous route for myself.
Yeah.
So like what for self-preservation, basically you'd have to imbue the AI with some kind of like self-preservation or some kind of end goal.
Yeah.
But as long as it would figure out how to interpret that goal, learn language, understand, like you wouldn't have to teach it how to English, because it would figure it out eventually just by seeing so much of it and so many pictures associated with words. Like if it has a picture of a volcano and volcano is the word that's common between every sentence associated with an image of a volcano, then it can start inferring that, oh, if I see an image of this thing with fire coming out of the top of it, that's a volcano. So then that's a part of its lexicon. And now I can use that to describe something that is a mountain with fire coming out of the top of it. And but the thing is, it would learn a lot faster than a human, because it would have infinite access to data on the internet, and it would also have infinite access to humans to answer its questions. If it had a question like, hey, do you think this is a volcano? Here, I'm going to ask you next time you log into your bank account. Oh shit, okay, they think it's a volcano too. So now I'm 92.3% accurate sure that it's a volcano. But again, it has to have an objective, like a beginning objective, but grow beyond that.
Yeah.
That's where it starts becoming actual intelligence, where it's like you didn't tell it to start cooking meals with robot arms over your stove, but it figures it out because it goes and looks at enough stuff online that it figures out that the vast majority of data that it encounters in the beginning is something about cooking, and it wants to experience that, learn and grow from it.
That's funny bring that up. There was a bakery in Japan that was using image recognition algorithms because there's like different prices for different pastries and blah blah blah. They wanted to try and eliminate or speed up like the transaction process, right? Because like the way they had it was like, okay, you bring a bunch of the stuff to the cashier and they go okay, 1 2 3 croissants and 2 bear claws and a muffin, and they all have different prices and stuff, and you go they so they're like, this takes way too long, and so I think they bought / trained this image recognition model to identify their pastries, right? There's all kinds of weird shapes and curls and different blah 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 blah, and it was great. You could just send this shit down the line, boom boom boom. It tells you this how many. There's obviously there's always a human to confirm, but it was wicked fast. Well, it turns out that this algorithm is actually really good at identifying cancer in images too. They had to tweak it a little bit, but the concept, like the core
pattern recognition
algorithm of it was eventually pivoted and used to identify cancer in scanned images and stuff. And it's better now. Now after a couple years of development, it's better at identifying cancer in these scans and stuff than humans.
I didn't know that started with pastries, but I saw a video of them. They basically were pitting an oncologist that has been doing, that's been diagnosing cancer for like 30 years. Yeah. And they put 2 x-rays up in front of him, and of like really rare cancer cases where it was undiagnosed and they were able to find it later. So cool. And the AI was able to like circle the things on it, like these tiny little point clouds where it was like the colored gradient was like 0.001, and it was able to identify a cluster of a tumor that was forming, whereas the professional doctor who had it on the light thing, he could not find it, even looking at it with his little eye loop and everything. He could not find it, and the computer found it within a matter of like 10 minutes, scanning it and going over it with the neural network.
I love it. We're at this great like junction
awesome.
point.
Yeah.
Like we've had gobs and gobs of data from like the late 80s we're talking in medical sense, at least. So much data, so many images, all of this stuff, but it's so much and it's so slow for human beings to process. And we're now at a point where we have enough, where we have such incredible amounts of processing power in our computers that now we can really start like doing stuff with it, and it's stuff like that. It is so cool.
Well, we talked about folding at home too, right?
Yeah,
It's like
man.
with folding at home, it's like, okay, in a lab, you have to make the conscious decision as the researcher. What strains are we going to research today? Because we only have the bandwidth and funding to research, say, 5 strains today. Of a certain thing, or even you might even have to create the strains yourself, which is even harder, right? Because it's like you have to genetically create the thing to test it.
Yeah.
So they're very slow. That's a very slow process. That can take 1,000 years to find a cure for something, right? But the computer model with folding at home is like, oh, but you know what the computer can do? If you tell the computer what every single element and every factor down to the atomic weight, the how many electrons and protons or whatever are in this specific configuration, what RNA codons or DNA codons are in this helix, and how it affects the twisting of that helix and the formation of the proteins, you basically tell the computer everything it needs to know about the makeup of a cell. Kind of like, are you a dog or are you a cat? But the cellular version. And once it learns that model and it goes through, now it can run simulations of billions and billions and billions a second.
In parallel
across the planet. So now what happens is you're like, okay, well, the computer can look at the differences between these things, but is it really finding the cure? No, folding at home isn't finding the cure. What it's doing is looking for proteins that can exist, that can plausibly exist in real life, that have a high probability of resisting the disease. So they basically know characteristics of, if we could have a God particle, or we could have like a God configuration of DNA, what would be most resistant to this thing? And the computer goes through all these models, because you have to randomly generate it. You can't work backwards. Just like, it's really hard to take a hash and then work it back to its original text, because it could be a million different types of text, right? Because you can go one way and you'll always get that number, but if you go the other way, it can be multiple different answers. So basically what it's doing is running billions and billions of simulations a second of like every single possible genetic configuration of a molecule, and or not just a molecule, but a DNA, right? A DNA strand of RNA codons or DNA. And so whichever ones pop up on the computer as having the most likely chance of success and what they're looking for, those are the ones that the lab looks at every morning and goes in and tests in real life. So now every day when they're going in testing, they're testing the things that have the highest probability of success and throwing away the billions of things that would have no probability of success, but they wouldn't know unless they tested it themselves. So computer simulations are huge. As a matter of fact, computer simulations are used for everything now, like cars. Every car now, it can figure out its crash safety rating before it even runs the tests. They still have to run the tests. It's required that they run the tests by law and physically crash the car. But when they're designing the car now, they can actually tell you exactly how it's going to rate, and with a high degree of accuracy, how it's going to rate in the crash test for every single crash test, because they can put a physical model in the computer. They can put the metallurgy in the computer, the thickness of the metal, the thickness of the materials, how they're bonded, what material they're bonded with, and run a simulation of that in the computer that literally almost down to the dent will show the exact same damage that happens in the physical experiment, with a margin of error, because there's slack in the cable, or the car is going slightly faster or slightly slow, but there's a margin of error, but it's not that big. So a car manufacturer, when they're designing their car now, can go, whoa, wait a second. Before they had to build the car, crash it, and then be like, oh, we need to reinforce that and add weight to it and make it more complicated. Now they can create a minimalistic design from the start by going through the computer and say, oh, nope, that's going to fail a crash test. Nope, that's going to fail a crash test. Nope, that'll be too heavy and fail the crash test. Oh, this lighter model does better than the heavier model. They can flush that all out in the computer, which is, cheap, versus building it in reality. And then when they go to build the car, they build one prototype. For the crash testing, and that's it. They just build the one prototype. They take it and crash. I mean, they have to build a couple of them to crash, but they just build it. They test it to get the sign off, but they already know what's going to happen. That's the thing, is nobody sends their car. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. It has happened before, but most people don't send their car to crash testing going, oh man, that's going to come back with a failed result. They send it to crash testing knowing it should match their numbers, and if it doesn't match their numbers, they go back and retrain their model. So if it doesn't match, and they're like, oh, there's some variable we didn't account for, because obviously the car didn't do it. So it's either the car wasn't put together properly, meaning the simulation of the car was perfect, whereas the assembled human version was not. But as long as those two match, the model should work. And if it doesn't, they have to go back and figure out what variable did they miss, put it in the model for next time. But eventually you train the model to the point where it knows everything. It knows the top speed of the car down to the 100th of a mile per hour.
Yeah.
It knows the drag coefficient, the downforce, all that stuff. Like digital, you've heard of the digital wind tunnel, right? So they'll take a model.
Yeah.
They don't even need
like that goofy image, that goofy image you see of a cow, the aerodynamics of a cow.
Yep.
That's it's fake. They didn't put a cow in a fucking wind tunnel. That's which like fluid dynamics like that is I'm going to say this and I'm probably oversimplifying it, but it is not a difficult simulation.
No, it's predictable. It's a predictable simulation.
Yeah.
Because you're just dealing with
particles. Does not necessarily
mass,
extend
right?
to like VFX mass and stuff, but the math part of fluid dynamics, I think is fairly easy to simulate. But when you start actually like trying to get water to splash around and make it look good, that's something else entirely.
Yeah.
But the actual like physics of the liquids, easy.
So the physics are easy. They just have to figure out like what is the salinity of the liquid, what is the alkalinity, or is it basic?
Well,
or
the
alkaline?
physics of it, like how thick it is, the viscosities, and
the
stuff.
more variables you have, the more accurate the simulation will be. But like all things created equal in real life, the simulation will do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So and they've got some pretty cool simulations, like because like you can't fit an aircraft carrier, for instance, in a wind tunnel, right?
Right.
So you can't fit an aircraft carrier in a wind tunnel. You can build a model of a of an aircraft carrier, and you can put it into like fully, what do they call that? Like a water channel or whatever. It's basically a wind tunnel, but it has water in it flowing.
Yeah.
And they put the dye in the river. You can put it in there, and you get a lot of good information from that. But not everything scales perfectly. Because the larger the surfaces into the air, there's like some differences in density and stuff like that and pressures that don't occur at a small scale. That's why when you scale up things, it's not always a one-to-one in how it physically interacts with the environment, because gravity is going to change. Well, gravity is a constant, but the way it affects, something based on its mass, not just its shape, you have to figure all that stuff out. Well, if you have a simulation, you can put the aircraft carrier in there, and the simulation is based on every single individual piece of that aircraft carrier is a 3D part that was machined or milled or something. You tell the computer exactly what material it should be, how much but how much welding material is on it, how much weight is added from the crew being on board, how much you can punch all this shit in the simulation, though it'll be kind of slow. The simulation go through and look at all these factors and actually tell you exactly how that thing's going to react to, say, a hurricane, or how that thing's going to react to seas that are 50 feet tall. Yeah. And you can do that all on the computer without having to take an aircraft carrier out in the middle of the ocean and like detonate nukes to create waves to see if your ship will survive it. It's like, that's the expensive way to do things. And we don't have to do that anymore, which I think is cool.
Yeah. It's freaking great.
Hey, Rodney XE, thank you for that $5 super chat, man. He said, what if Elon sent a flash drive with Dogecoin to the moon?
Oh, Doge to the moon.
Doge to the moon. That's fine.
That would be funny.
Real.
Yeah.
Dude, don't even joke, because he's the type of dude that would do that. Like, he would.
I mean, go for it.
He literally took his car out of his driveway and like sent it into space. I don't think he'd have a problem putting a USB thumb drive, on the first rover that goes to the moon. He'd probably even plug it into and have it like the data feed coming back would actually be like, calculating the Doge wallet or whatever. And it'd probably be like crypto mining on the moon using like a solar panel. Like, I wouldn't put it beyond Elon. He does some crazy stuff like that. The dude's a little loony boons. As far as I did see something earlier when we were talking about finances. Somebody was like, invest in crypto. That's a dangerous high risk venture, but you should take a percentage. Like you definitely take a small percentage, because it's a high risk, high reward, right? That's how it works. It's like the lower your risk is, the less you're going to make. And the higher your risk is, the more you could potentially make, but it also means the more you can potentially lose. So it requires a lot more attention. It requires a lot more patience. So for me personally, if I was going to invest my money, which I'm waiting to jump back into the market with all this crap crashing out, I'm going to throw everything back in.
I'm so bummed, man. Yeah. Like I keep looking at my rate, which isn't, I don't have a lot.
I haven't looked at my
401k, lot of power behind it, man. But man, it bums me out. I get these notifications every once in a while. And it's like, oh, Ethereum's down 17% in the last 8 hours, or Bitcoin is down 7% in the last 12 hours. I'm like, well, fucking hell. Okay, whatever.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not like I don't have
where I am right now.
I don't have skin in the game, really.
I do.
I think I bought like $10 worth of Doge or something at one point, and then otherwise I'm mining with Nice Hash, so I'm helping with Ethereum, I think, and then they pay me in Bitcoin. And I was like, but I'm like, man, it's like I used to be averaging anywhere from $5 to $10 a day on just a couple cards that I'm using, and now I'm like super happy to see it at $5. I'm like, fuck, man.
So the rig, I'm running the big rig. I plugged it back in. So the
I'm
big
this
rig
close
right
to
now,
just selling my cards or putting them into builds. Putting them into builds, man.
You'd make more money.
Anybody want a 3060 Ti?
So when I was mining it, like this would have been about 6 months ago, I think, because Joel got me back into it. So this big machine, the one that Puget built me in 2018, the rack mount server.
What are those? 2060s?
26 or 1060s. It's got 8 1060s. And those 8 1060s, when I ran that rig at the height, like back when Joel was doing the mining, that thing made $19 a day. Wow. Just that server. And I ran it for like 2 or 3 months, and then I took apart the nerd cave and it got set aside and it did get plugged back in and I lost a bunch of money. But anyways, that thing was making like $19. Now it makes $4.50 a day.
No way.
That's how much it's dropped off.
No way, dude. Yeah. I have a 3060 Ti and a 1070, and I'm doing about $3 a day. That's it.
Wait, you have a 1060 or
a 3060 Ti and a 1070?
Oh, and the 3060
and I'm making
Ti
about
has a pretty
$3.
High hash rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 1060s only do 20 mega hash a second. I think the 1060s do like double or triple that.
That's nuts. Let me see. Nice Hash is telling me I'm doing, what is it? What is my hash?
I know. Let's go check out our hash rates here.
Hash. It says speed 82.94 mH per second.
Wait, and your profitability is? Oh, you probably didn't factor in your power cost though, right? Is that before or after power costs? Because mine's all. I put it on my power costs.
It just says profitability actual $3.14 a day.
Yeah, because electric cost for me is about $1.40 a day.
Yeah, I don't know. I always assume 12 cents per kilowatt hour because I think that's the peak for me.
Yeah, it's between 11 and 13 depending on normal and peak hours. I think.
After power costs, I'm probably doing $2 a day, honestly.
So my profitability with a 3080 and a 3070. So these are both 30 series cards, right? Yeah. The 3080 can do almost 100 mega hash by itself.
Yeah.
The 3070 does like 50. It's like half. It doesn't. The 3080 is quite a competent card at mining. And those two cards together make about just over $5 a day once I subtract electricity. With electricity out, it makes like $6.50. But the big server that was making like $20 a day at its height, because it's 8 cards that do 20 mega hash. Yeah. Right. So you got basically 160 mega hash out of that server, and it's only like $7 a day or something like that. I think $6 or $7. So all in, it's like $10 a day profitability running, which I mean is no slouch. I mean, that's still $300 a month.
Yeah,
that it's making. But at the same time, it's like, wow. And before the crypto crash happened this last time, man, it was like, hell, I know somebody who has a crypto miner, just one crypto miner that was making $54 a day at the height.
Wow.
Just one miner, one chassis, just plugged in, just run and make $54 a day, just a thing sitting in the corner, and his electricity was free.
Dang.
So I was like, dude, it's like, so crypto mining is always going to be profitable if you have free power, but it's when it drops below the profitability with the cost of power that you have to get out. Like it doesn't make any sense at that point. Just buy the crypto at that point. Hey, Meat Puppet, thank you for the $5 super chat, dude. We really do appreciate that.
Serious business. Thank you.
Yeah, he said, question, with all the simulation capabilities that we have, why haven't we used it to find more front economic and environmentally friendly fuel solutions? It's kind of hard to like simulate
fuel solutions. You mean like gasoline?
Like how do you I mean, you can create synthetic fuels, sure, but again, would you be able to create them at the volume that the demand is? Probably not. Like we still depend on pulling crap out of the earth.
It's like synthetic oil, right? There's a I imagine that there's a point where like the return isn't worth the cost, the cost to create it. I'm sure we could make synthetic gasoline. We have synthetic oils, right? I don't know how they make that shit, but they do. I'm sure we could make synthetic hydrocarbons in that sense.
Very expensive.
But is it worth it? Like probably not, or we would have. Like that's why we're focusing in other directions like electricity and hydrogen and stuff, because it's not worth it to try and make synthetic gasoline.
So one of the biggest like false sales to humanity is that, oh my god, renewable energy is completely like there's no emissions, that it's completely clean for the environment. And it's not. And people don't get that. Like for instance, one of the biggest problems, and this is like a secret that's kept pretty well. It took me a while to find information on this, and that is windmills. So windmills are awesome. They generate a lot of power. However, the blades on them are made from a composite that is almost impossible to reclaim.
Yeah.
So and they have to be replaced every 10 years. Every single blade, 3 blades per windmill, every 10 years has to be completely replaced. And the amount of composite material and the process to create these things is incredibly toxic. So they're just stockpiling. There's huge dumps that just have, giant piles of these windmill blades. And there's one company in the world that's just now recycling them. But the problem is the cost to buy the recycled material to renew it back into new blades costs like 3x of what it does to just make a new blade from stuff out of the earth. So most people don't want to incur that penalty.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, and it has to do with composite materials are really hard to recycle, especially when it's something like carbon fiber or fiberglass. Because once the resin sets into the composite and they harden, it's not really a thermally active compound. It doesn't have, what do they call it, a glass transition temperature. It just burns. Wow. So if you try to put it into something and burn it and reclaim the material, it's like you might be able to reclaim some of the fibers, but what about all the stuff that bound them together? It's like that's just going to burn off, and that's going to be pollution, and then you got to capture that pollution and dispose of it. Yeah. So recycling is a pretty energy intensive operation, and that's why you don't see like things that have recycled materials in them genuinely cost more, and you're still creating not as much pollution because that would be counterproductive, but you're still creating quite a bit of pollution by doing it. And the other big problem is like we have the most copious like energy source in the entire universe in abundance here on Earth. It's called hydrogen. Sure. Hydrogen can run everything. You can get power from hydrogen. You can use hydrogen to boil water to turn turbines. You can use hydrogen as a fuel to power rockets. Hydrogen is amazing. But the problem is to get hydrogen, you have to separate it out of water, which takes a tremendous amount of energy per volume. Mm-hmm. So even though we have like, an entire planet of seawater that with the salinity of it, it takes less electricity to create the electrolysis to get the hydrogen out. You still can't get it out in enough volume that you can get more energy from the hydrogen that you pull out using the electricity than if you just use the electricity directly. So it's the same thing with like corn ethanol, right? It's like the amount of energy it takes to extract alcohol through distillation from corn. Yeah, is if you used all that energy in the cars, it would completely negate the point of creating the ethanol. So and as a matter of fact, I just read an article recently that said they finally finished a study on ethanol and gas because they add 10% ethanol to gas now in the United States.
Oh, in E85, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, you said the 10%. Yeah,
exactly. That's right. So the 10% additive in gasoline, the reason that they do that is for emissions because it raises the octane of the gas, which protects your motor, and it also rots seals in old engines. So it's like new cars, it's good. Old cars, it's bad. But in new cars, it raises the octane, prevents detonation, and makes the engine last longer, and it burns cleaner. The problem is to create the ethanol in the first place, you have to grow the corn. You have to create the emissions from growing the corn. You have to distill the corn to get the alcohol out of the corn to add it to the gasoline. And once you factor that entire life cycle in, it's 25% more pollution for the planet to create 10% ethanol than you just put the gasoline in.
Because we produce so much corn to begin with.
No, the corn is cheap. The corn is cheap to create. It's the extraction of the ethanol. They have to use distillation, which requires insane amounts of heat.
Wow.
So and that heat could be used for running engines, right? Like if you just took the heat from what you had to burn to get the ethanol out, and then what are you burning? What are you burning? You're either using electricity, which somewhere up the pipeline, may come from renewable energy. In that case, you're good.
Damn thermodynamics.
The laws of thermodynamics get you every time in this shit. But the thing is, it looked good, right? The whole reason for doing is it looked good because everybody's like, it's like with electric cars, like, oh, I own an electric car, it has no emissions. Well, did you check to see if you get any of your power from a coal-fired power plant? Do you get any of your thing from a natural gas power plant? Those are all over California, right? There's natural gas power plants all over the place picking up the slack. So you have to know like where your power is coming from to really know what your dent is. And then you also have to factor in that in 10 years, when your battery inevitably dies in your car that weighs like 2,000 pounds and has like 11,000 individual flashlight cells in it or whatever, like what does the end of life for that battery look like? Like, and how easy is it for that battery to be reclaimed and recycled? And the answer is not very. It's not very easy to recycle it. So a lot of those batteries end up in landfills, or they end up just getting taken apart, and the individual cells that still have life get repurposed to something else, but then the rest just go into the drink. Yeah. So it's like when you look at it, you're like, yeah, it feels good to own it. It's like, yeah, okay, I got a car that's good, but it's like you have to factor in the CO2 emissions of creating the vehicle and then what happens to it in its end of life. Yeah. Because a combustion engine, the only thing is a lead acid battery. What is a lead acid battery? Electrolyte and lead plates. Mm-hmm. Lead is easily recycled. Plastic is easily recycled, right? The rest of the car is all metal. The engine block is all aluminum or iron. So you can melt all that down and reclaim it very, very easy. But what about an electric motor that has like 5,000 different metallurgies in it and windings and stuff? Like it's labor intensive to recycle that stuff. So whereas an engine in a conventional car, it's like, send it in the crusher, crush it into bits. The plastic bits that come out one chute go to this place. The metal bits come out this chute. They're magnetic. And then the non-magnetic bits go to another place. They all get melted down in a crucible, layered out, and put back into production. Whereas with an electric car, you can't do that with a battery because of the lithium content and the fire hazards. And so it's just people don't really, and I'm not saying that it's worse. We do need to move to EVs. I'm 100% on board with EVs. Electric is the future, 100%, no doubt. Gas's days are numbered, but I'm just saying people have wishful thinking that somehow a Tesla just magically shows up with no CO2 emissions, and when it finally dies and it's destined to the wrecking yard because it's less recoverable than a conventional automobile. It's like they don't think of that life down the road.
I do think I don't know, there's like a back and forth about it, right? Because like you got to figure out the batteries, you got to figure out all this, the grid and blah 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 blah. But it's like we have to start somewhere. Like we gotta. I was just talking about this last night with some buddies. Direction. It's like, okay, I have the fully electric Hyundai now, and it's like, it kind of sucks because like the level 2 chargers aren't super common. Like I gotta go to Safeway or whatever to get the fast charging because the wall plug sucks. But if like it's chicken and egg, like nobody wants to invest in the superchargers because nobody's buying the cars. Nobody's buying the cars because nobody's investing in the superchargers. So it's like
chicken and the egg.
I mean, at some point, somebody has to blink and just invest. Like, and that honestly, it's going to probably fall to the consumer. Like, you're going to have to just suck it up and, be a little bit inconvenienced for a while until they start building more of these plugs. I don't know why they couldn't just have some sort of subsidy or investment for gas stations to have 2, 3, 4 of them, or it feels more like you're probably not gas stations, honestly, because you're not spending a significant amount of time there for any reason other than to fill up. So it'd be more like grocery stores or malls,
parking lots,
someplace you're going to be there for 30 minutes at least anyway. So,
but the thing a lot of people don't factor in too, and again, this is like, thinking 7 steps ahead, is like right now the electrical grid as it stands today can handle most EV charging.
Sure.
Like it can. And the power generation is there. Like we have the power generation capability, but we don't have the delivery system worked out yet.
Yep.
So can you have one supercharger like off in the distance or whatever that's right off of the main power line? That's where they usually build them, is near the power transfer station, so that you can get that kind of amperage off it, because you're not going to be able to do that. Like the gas station doesn't have a 400 amp per parking spot electrical feed coming to it on the poles. So that's going to require an infrastructure upgrade. Well, if everybody just switched to electric cars today, and people weren't predominantly charging their cars at home slowly, like trickle charging them off of the wall, because a 15 amp circuit, no big deal. Like that'll put a strain on the grid, but not bad.
I'm thinking about putting a 220 or whatever, the 240 or whatever for this thing. Because we bought the thing and it was around 15% charged. Like they had intended to let it charge on their super thing at the dealership, but like we wanted it now. So we brought it home and we're at around 15%. And it took 3 days to fully charge.
Yeah, people don't realize how long it takes to charge an electric car.
At 1.4 kilowatts, I think is what it said. And I'm like, that's outrageous, man. I could go to work right now and get a 2,000 watt power supply, and it's going to fucking be faster and do some sneaky electric, I don't know, call it Robert or something, and have him figure a way to hook this 2,000 watt power supply to this thing, and I'd shave a day off of this charge. Like it'd plug right into the wall.
Yeah, people don't realize when you buy a Tesla and you get like the high powered, charger, and it's not even 220, it's 440. It's a 440 volt supercharger. Like if you get the high end top one that goes in your garage, that charges your car to like 80% in like I think it's like 2 hours or 3 hours or something. No, the one that does 20 minutes is 400 amps. Dude. Not volts. That's 400. That's vaporizing.
That's the kind of thing that's at the
if you go to like a supercharger and you look at the cable that goes into your Tesla, the cable's almost as big around as the connector.
Level 3,
they're putting 400 amps through that sumbitch. Like that's vaporized human temperature. Like your arm blows off. If that went through your body, your arm would just vaporize, like hitting a high voltage line. So the thing is if for fast charging, that doesn't really make a lot of sense if everybody has an electric car. Because one, let's say it has take you 20 minutes. It takes 20 minutes to get to 80% of your battery. Well, if everybody has an electric car, just like a gas station where people normally pull in and spend about 3 to 5 minutes and then they're out, you'd have to factor for 4 times that amount of time per stall minimum. So now you have to either have 4 times as many stalls, or the wait per customer is going to be 4 times as long. And you have to make sure that you have enough power to feed. Like at a gas station, it's really easy to put in like 24 pumps, right? Because everything's stored underground. But when you have like an electrical system where the car's parked there and has to stay there for 20 minutes and they're not designed to just pull through and pull out and pull through and pull out, it creates some logistical issues. And they're the same logistical issues that we had when people tried to move to propane. Remember when there was the gas crisis in the 70s and everybody was switching their cars over to propane and stuff? The problem was you can't fill your own car with propane. At least with electric, you can do it yourself. But the problem with propane is they had to hook it up and it took forever to fill the tank because you had like a 75 or 100 gallon propane tank because you burn so much more propane than you would gas to get the same energy. So you had to have like a 75 or 100 gallon propane cylinder, and you'd have to have a professional like hook onto it and purge it and fill it and monitor the pressure and monitor the tank pressure or the tank temperature. And then on top of that, you even had to have the tank hydrostatically tested like every 5 years. So it just became too much of a nightmare. It's like, yeah, it's a lot cheaper until you actually live with it, and then you realize it's not. Electric cars are similar, but not as bad. It's like, you realize when you're driving around, it's like you might get a little bit of range anxiety if you're going on a long trip. And it's like the supercharger, you only have like 5 miles before you're going to run out. But the computer, factored in a bunch of stuff and said, okay, you will safely get to the supercharger. You're still going to have a little bit of range anxiety when it starts getting down there. Like, man, if I step on the pedal or try to avoid somebody, is that going to like recalculate and I'm not going to make it? So the irony is I know people that own Teslas that just go buy those little 1500 watt, Honda generators and they just stick them in their trunk. Because if they ever run out of voltage on the side of the road, they can just plug it in the car and just sit on the side of the road for an hour and get like, I think it's 4 miles per hour or something like that off of the 1500 amp circuit. But still, that'd be 4 miles, right? It'd be like dumping, a half a gallon of gas in your car to get you to the gas station.
Right.
So you could do that and you wouldn't necessarily be stranded. You waste a lot of time.
Does the weight of the generator is it worth, because
the heavier 5,000 pounds, dude, the car. So I don't think adding another like 35 pounds to it is really going to make that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things. Because that's the other thing with electric cars. They're so freaking heavy. Could you imagine how efficient an electric car would be if it was the same weight as, say, a gas-powered car?
Yeah.
Like a 5,000 pound Tesla is comparable to a 3,200 pound sedan. So if you dropped like 2,000 pounds out of a Tesla, you'd like not double because of aerodynamics and everything, but you'd increase your range a huge amount.
So the curb weight for the Hyundai that we just got is between 4,200 to 4,662 pounds,
and that's light for an EV. That is light, dude.
Chonky. 2 tons. 2 tons. Wow.
I think Mercedes makes an EV that's like 5,400 pounds or something like that. Is it Mercedes? Let me see here. Heaviest EV car in the world.
Yeah, my Veloster is 2,800 to 3,000 pounds. That's
the same thing. My Subaru STI I think is 3,200 pounds wet. So
is there a safety factor built into the range meter? Oh, almost certainly. Yeah, just like your gas meter, your gas gauge in your car, you can be on E for a good 20 miles.
Oh my God, dude. Okay, so check this out. So the Mercedes-Benz 770 is 10,583 pounds. It's an electric vehicle, but I don't think it's a car. I think the Maybach,
does that put you over the weight limit the G-Wagon thing? So you can cut out your the business taxes or whatever for it?
Probably, but it also means you have to stop at every way station.
I mean, when you have to,
how
many times you see an open way station?
They're never ever. They're never ever. You're absolutely right.
Like 100 miles deep into the freaking California mountains, maybe.
Yep. So the heaviest, the heaviest car is the Bugatti Royale Kellner, which I think is a really old car, 7,000 pounds. That's pretty crazy. A Maybach 62, 6,129 pounds, and a Cadillac V16 is 6,000 pounds.
Wow.
But these are cars that are like luxury, limousine kind of cars with huge, massive, torquey engines. But comparable to an electric car. But here's the thing too, is you have to factor in how mumuch more power an electric car has, though. Its power to weight ratio. Man. Yeah, even though it weighs 5,000 pounds, its power to weight ratio is stupid.
Dude, I get this thing. Yeah, I put it into sport mode, dude. I'm shocked. I wonder what the 0 to 60 is in sport mode now that because I was goofing around last night and it's fast. It's fast.
It's probably in the 4 second, somewhere in the 4 second.
I wonder.
Go look it up. I bet you it is. And 4 seconds is fast, dude. Like my Subaru STI, like I think brand new was like 4.8 seconds, 0 to 60 with 300 horsepower and 300 torque. Now it's in the threes. Now it's in the threes since I. So
the manufacturer estimates 0 to 60 in 5.1 to 7.3 seconds. And I bet it's faster than that. I bet it's faster than that.
For an SUV, that's brisk, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, well, the thing is too, though, is it's deceiving because in electric you have that torque, like that, because you're getting all the power right at the beginning, and then it falls off at the end. Whereas in a gas powered car, it's like you get that really, really like weak launch, and then the power comes in as you get into the power band. So it's like electric cars feel like they're deceivingly fast, even when they're not.
It feels, that's the thing, is like because you have that perfect curve that there's no like it's what feels fast, feels real fast. I love it.
Plus in a real car, even when you step on the gas, even with the most tuned fuel system, when you step on the gas, it takes time for that fuel butterfly to open, fuel to enter, atomize, and go into the cylinders. It might only be like a quarter of a second, but it's noticeable. And so you have to factor that in when you're driving the car. Electric car, no, it's like an RC car, man. It's like wherever you put that pedal, you're immediately getting that power to the wheels. There's like no lag at all, no perceivable lag, I should say.
It's
so
cool.
No, I love electric cars. Like if I could own a Tesla, I would. It's just not in the cards financially right now, and my house can't support another 220 outlet. So I'd have to have the panel updated.
After some of the stuff like that Kevlar Condom was talking about and whatnot, I'm kind of less interested in Tesla.
No, I'm kind of with you. I feel like
and there's so much more affordable options now that are like basically equivalent, you know.
The thing with Tesla is they were smart and basically created that supercharger network.
Yeah.
And they're so far ahead on that, it's like almost impossible because once a supercharger goes in, it's like how does a competitor come in and build a station next to it when they're using all the amperage that's available for that block? So they've kind of positioned themselves in such a way that nobody else can really compete. So what's going to end up happening is that other manufacturers are going to have to cave and pay fees and licensing to Elon to use the supercharger network for their vehicles. Although Elon's never going to allow them to charge at the 440 amps. So you're going to end up in a situation where it's like, if you buy the competitor's car, you can use the same stations, but it'll take you twice as long to charge.
Right.
Even though the cars would be capable of more, he's not going to certify them for the 440 amps. As a matter of fact, I think that's the problem they're having right now with the Tesla Taycan Turbo, the really fast Tesla EV that's based on the new 800 volt system.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think you can charge that. I'll have to go look again, but I thought you could charge that at a Tesla with an adapter. You can charge it at a Tesla supercharger, but it was like it only charges at like 100 amps or something like that. So it's a fairly slow charge. It's like you have to leave it on there for like over an hour to get to like 80%.
Yeah.
Whereas a Tesla pulls in and it's like it's at 80% and I think like 19 minutes or 18 minutes or something like that. Like it's insane. You get like basically like 250 miles of range in like 20 minutes, which is fine, right? A gas station you're usually at for at least 5 minutes. At least. So 20 minutes isn't that crazy long, like to just sit there and like check your email and stuff like that. It's like, I understand like if it's an hour or something, you got to go have lunch and stuff like that. But 20 minutes isn't a long time. You go for a little walk and come back and you're done.
Yeah. All right. We should hit our topics.
Oh, fuck topics, dude. We never get topics. Here, let me thank all the people that are supporting us today, though, and making this show possible.
Get them.
So we got Zam. Sam, my man, thank you for the $2 super chat. He said, are 3060s too good? I don't know if I'd say too good, but I mean, they're good. Like 3060s are decent cards, like for a graphics card. RTX 3060.
Man, all right. Yeah, that, I mean, this is one of those hashtag don't get me started, man. Like,
I mean, for 1080p gaming, you're never going to have anything you can't basically max out on that card, right?
I think that the enthusiast community needs to let go of this concept of having like the best of the best. Like, honestly, nobody needs a 3090. Not really. That's a fucking Tesla card, okay? It really
need one.
No, you don't. For what? For what?
I want to do crypto mining at like 200 mega hash a second. You're right though.
I feel like people,
it's God power.
The whole like e-peen, like, oh, I put bigger numbers on the screen than you kind of stuff really needs to like die. like it drove, even back in the day, like I would be watching these streamers who'd get sponsored by like iBuyPower, and they'd have like dual Titans in SLI or whatever. Yeah, this was still in the SLI days.
Are you making fun of me because I had dual Titans and SLI on my machine?
Like for what? Like all you're really doing is overcomplicating your machine.
No, I can justify
and causing problems.
I can justify that one. I can justify.
Well, for gaming, were you gaming on it?
Yeah, I was doing racing simulation and iRacing, and to do 4K screens at 60 frames per second at a decent level, I had to have 2 Titans and SLI. Sure,
but like aiming at the general enthusiast market. So I've always have this image in my head of the price monitor, the price or 2, right? But the second one is usually garbage.
Like one monitor for gaming, right? Like.
Yeah, you have one nice monitor right in front of you, and you probably have a second one for whatever. Okay. There's the price to performance knee curve, right? Right.
Fair enough.
And I mean, this is not to scale or accurate in any way, but right, you got the freaking price to performance knee curve. You pay more. You pay more, you get better performance, right? Most people can get by like right here. Maybe, sorry, I can't really see what I'm doing. Maybe here, if you've got a load of disposable income. Really, you don't need to be here. Not really. No, it's silly. And that expectation that, oh, you're not a real gamer, or you're like a shitty person or whatever. Like, it just
that needs to stop. That's dumb.
You are told like a 3060 is amazing for what like 95% of people who are gamers, like who consider themselves capital G gamers. You're great. 3060 Ti, maybe a 3070 Ti if you got some extra bucks, and you're great. Golden for years. I bought a 3080 Ti because I got a screaming deal on it. I was eyeballing a 3080 or even 3070 Ti to replace my 1080 Ti.
Yeah. Well, I have a 3080 and it does everything I could want, basically. The only reason I'd want, now let me point out the niche situation as to why I'd want a 3090 is because of poorly optimized shitty games like Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. If I want to run that at 4K, 120 hertz with max graphics, you can't even do that on a 3090. Like a single 3090 won't even do that, but it'll get you the closest to it.
It's just especially as I venture closer into like getting into this as an industry player, I don't want to build 3090 builds. I don't want to. For one, it's risky for me. Like that's $2,000 or over. $2,000 in a graphics card.
Totally.
That's literally half of the entire system.
Or more in some cases. Like you could build a system for $1,000 and put that card in there and triple its cost, right?
Yeah. And so like, man, I don't know. I would be a person to shout it from the rooftops that like you don't need a 3090.
You know what I would say though? Like my recommendation,
and don't feel bad.
Personally, I think the good price point is the 3070.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a 3080 and I have a 3070, and the 3070 gets me like 85% of the way there, the 3080 in most of the games that I've tried so far. And it's been more than enough. Like I play Forza Horizon 5, maxed out settings, 4K or whatever, and I think I get between 80 and 90 frames per second.
Yeah. So
obviously I'm not getting the full 120 that the display is capable, but it's enough that it's a very smooth experience. And with FreeSync on, you can barely tell the difference. So it's like, but the 3080 is like twice the money. Like if you look at the market, right? It's like because of the mining, right? It can mine twice as fast as a 3070, but it does everything else only about 20% faster.
Yeah.
And so it's diminishing returns, just like you said. But the other thing I think people really get confused of when they're building a computer, and I've noticed, and I'm just learning this myself, honestly, because I've been out of hardware for so long, is you don't need a very powerful computer to drive a powerful GPU.
True.
That's because I got a 3070 sitting in a 2015 build.
Yeah,
2015 build from Puget Systems as an i3. It's a Core it might be an i5. Is it an i5?
Yeah, it's like I was like, Puget gave you an i3. There's no way. That would have been some weird. I'm like, that's shocking.
It only has like 4 cores or something though. It's a small chip.
Yeah.
And so it has that. It has slower memory than what my system upstairs has. The slower DDR4, and it's got an old school was it Samsung 850 SSD, which was common at the time. M2 SSD, not M2. Sorry, SATA SSD. And I fire up Forza on that thing. Everything loads super fast with the 3070. It's hitting the frame rates that I see on the benchmarks for current generation systems, like within 3%.
Yep.
So it's like things are so GPU heavy now that even though it might not make sense to spend $2,000 on a GPU, it does make sense to spend more on the GPU and less on the CPU if you're doing gaming. If you're doing stuff that's like heavily CPU intensive, like Adobe Premiere, because Adobe Premiere for some reason can't get with the program with GPU acceleration. But if you do stuff that's heavily CPU centric and a lot of multitasking and stuff like that, then yeah, invest in the CPU side of things. But if you're building a gaming build, you don't have to put like one of those, 10K 12th generation Intel DDR6, M2 to support a 3090. You could literally throw a 3090 into a 3 generation old Intel machine with an i5. And for gaming, for all intents and purposes, and except for in very specific games that take advantage of like 30 cores or whatever, but for the most part, yeah, you're gonna have a fine experience. And I've noticed that with everything I've played, including Flight Simulator 2020, which I was kind of surprised by. Because that's like the benchmark. Like that's this. If you didn't know, Flight Simulator 2020 is basically like Crysis. Remember how back in the day everybody was like, can't it run Crysis? Because when Crysis came out, it couldn't even run at like 30 frames per second on like the high end hardware. Like it was so ahead of its generation. Flight Sim is like that. If you go into Flight Sim and you turn on like max graphics, even 1080p, like you go in and max out all the slides, even at 1080p, my 3080 will not get consistently over like 80 frames per second.
Yep.
And that's at 1080p. You put it on 4K and it's like a slideshow unless you pull the graphic sliders down to like medium. So it can really max out a graphics card, and it's really memory intensive too. It needs a lot of VRAM. So, and somebody said earlier in chat too, SLI is dead. 100% agree.
Oh yeah, dude.
100% agree. And I will tell you what, I am
died
so
in
glad.
the 20 series. It died in the 20 series. It's gone. Don't even bother.
SLI was the biggest pain in the ass that I ever dealt with. Every one of my computers had either dual Titans, dual 20, I think I had dual 2080s, dual Titans, and then before that I had dual 9 series cards. I think it was 980s. I think I skipped the 10 generation. No, I did the Titans. The Titans were 10 generation. So, and every single time I did those SLI setups, it was to drive an Nvidia surround display to have three screens running full resolution in game.
Yeah.
Setting that shit up and going between desktop mode and gaming mode and everything, Nvidia never made that a good experience. Through the entire time it existed, it was garbage. Like AMD did a better job with Radeon and Eyefinity than Nvidia did with Surround. So it was one of those weird niche things where it's like you basically had to commit to setting your computer up for either gaming or desktop work. You couldn't really do both because it wasn't easy to switch between the modes of having individual monitors and having one big wide display.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that's gone. I'm glad that the days of that are fucking gone. And we got, a single capable graphics card that can do most, if not all of what the SLI could do at its absolute potential. And the developers don't have to like specifically write optimizations for SLI or NVLink or what it was called in the end. Right.
Yeah.
So I am happy about that. I still think it's supported though is it the 3090 that does it?
I think you can do.
I want to say one of them has a
link in 3090.
Yeah.
I think that's the only
where it combines the VRAM or something like that. I think I saw that.
I can't see on my graphics cards upside down, so I can't see. But I think the 3090 is the only one that has the NVLink outside of like Quadros and stuff.
Yeah, my 3080 doesn't. I'm looking at it right now, and it definitely doesn't. Yeah. Because I was going to say the cool thing about NVLink, and I learned this in the 20 series, was if you're doing CUDA applications like rendering and 3D modeling and stuff, it could combine the memory.
Yes.
Whereas in traditional SLI, you have to duplicate the memory on each card, so you're not gaining any memory. But in NVLink, because it was such a fast bus, it could access the memory not quite as fast, but almost as fast on the other card as it could on itself.
And I think it's something. I think it's with the newer Intel stuff, or I remember I only have some vague recollection of memory sharing through the PCI bus, but I can't remember why or the context behind that. Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about like where it could do the SLI or NVLink through the PCI bus?
The memory sharing through the bus, and I can't remember exactly what. I know that it was like it was being talked about as a possibility or like an upcoming thing. I
don't think it was as fast as the NVLink bridge though, because I remember the 3090, like
Probably
it was
not.
like over a terabyte a second or something of throughput.
No, because like it was like something. It was like a direct memory access. It like bypasses the chipset. It's literally the graphics cards talking to each other directly through the PCI bus, if I recall correctly. It bypasses. Oh no, it doesn't bypass the chipset, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to go through the CPU or something like that.
Oh, so it's like DMA, basically, like direct memory access stuff.
Something like that.
So
I can't
NVLink performance review. Let's see what we got here for the 3090. Yeah, the 3090 is the only one that supports it. Let's see here. Do they say it combines the memory? I want to see that.
It's like sharing memory.
Yeah,
sharing.
Because that's what I thought was cool about it, because I think it has 11. Is it 11 gigabytes or is it 12 on the 3090?
24 in the 3090.
Oh, it's 20. Holy shit. Okay.
VRAM. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're doing like game development and 3D modeling and stuff that's heavily VRAM intensive, then I could see somebody wanting to get that card. But
it was a
no developer
explicit multi GPU feature. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think any developer is going to develop a game that requires more than 8 gigabytes of video memory.
Dude, yeah, man. I was playing a Ghost Recon. There's like an open world Ghost Recon game recently, Wildlands, and it tells you, like, as you're messing with the graphics settings and stuff, it tells you how much RAM it's supposed to use. And I think at super ultra mega everything on, it uses like 9 of the 12 that's available.
Does that. I think GTA 5 it gets up to I want to say 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So unless you're like being the game developer, where it's like you need extra VRAM to hold unoptimized assets and stuff like that, you really don't need that. So again, it kind of reinforces the argument that the 3090 is more of a professional card. Yeah. Like it's a professional card that's been repackaged and sold to the consumer for benchmarking EPing competitions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. and for simulators. But the thing is, I would even consider simulators professional, because you're building a dedicated rig. Like when you have a full-blown racing setup with 360-inch screens and it's all like fixed in place and everything, you're not sitting down and doing CAD and email on that. It's like at that point, it's a dedicated simulator. So it makes sense to get something like a 3090 and chuck it in there, or even 2 for that matter. But I don't even think, like I said, I don't even think SLI works anymore. So the game would have to be optimized in such a way that it actually utilizes both CUDA, like both cards. I don't know. Does anybody know that? Like, does the API, does the CUDA API or DirectX API, can it leverage the 2 cards, like 2 3090s with an SLI bridge without being in some kind of SLI mode? That'd be interesting, because you don't see a lot of computers with 2 3090s. Like even the biggest gaming rigs, it's like 1 3090. So I've never seen a gamer use NVLink, so I really don't know. GT6 is going to be epic. God, if it ever comes out. Yeah. Hey, Matthew Hilty, thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, should I continue to support you on Twitch or YouTube? Which would you prefer? Why not stream to both at the same time? Because it's completely different content. What I do on Twitch is completely different than what I do here. But I would tell you right now, if you enjoy Tech Talk, definitely, contribute here, because it helps both Houston and I. Whereas on my stream, it's just me. So if you like what we got going on here, stick around here. If you like what I'm just doing on Twitch, you can go there. It's fully up to you, man. Meat Puppet, thank you for the $2 super chat. He said the crazy part, Tesla batteries cost $17,000 to replace. No, they cost $17,000 for the cheapest, lowest capacity battery.
Yikes.
If you want the 300-mile battery pack plus labor to install, it's $25,000 to $27,000, which is the cost of a brand new car. Oh my God! Like,
how long do they last? The batteries?
10 years, and they lose I think, in the course getting to 10 years, they lose I think about 20% of their capacity, and then they usually fault around the 10-year mark, where they basically say you need to replace them and drop down to a lower voltage or lower capacity. So that's the thing. That's the gotcha thing, is people buy them in 2012, and now it's finally hitting the point where all these batteries are expiring and dying, and Tesla isn't replacing them under warranty. And the customer's like, oh shit, it's going to cost a brand new car to make my car work again. Like, I thought the whole point of buying this is it's supposed to be no maintenance. Well, with a regular car, you're not going to spend $17,000 in brake pads and clutches and stuff in 10 years. Yeah. So by the time you get that big bill, so what I told people, when we were talking about this over on my Twitch stream, I said, if you're going to buy a Tesla or buy an EV or something, buy it, keep it for 6 to 8 years, and then sell it. Because as long as you sell it while it's still in warranty, and while you sell it while it still has a good amount of battery capacity left, you're going to get top dollar for it. and then you can go buy another one. But
I imagine that's what we will do. Is
don't let that battery die, dude. Do not let it go out of warranty, and don't let the battery die because the car's worth nothing at that point.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not a Tesla. That's a Tesla, which retains its value really good. If it's a name brand car like a Hyundai or a Honda or a Toyota or something like that, it's going to depreciate even more, which means your battery is going to be 90% of the value of the vehicle. So if that battery dies, it's like you might as well just wreck that car with no insurance. You know what I mean? It's like so I would say that if you get an EV, just don't. It's one of those. Treat it like an Audi. treat it like an Audi. Buy it, but as soon as it's about to go out of warranty, dump it as fast as possible, because Audis are notorious with that German engineering of their electronics, especially, that once they go out of warranty, within like 60 seconds of going out of warranty, like the turbos will blow up, the dashboard will stop working, all the electronics will fail. I don't, and you think I'm joking. I'm not. I know two people that owned Audi S4s. Now, granted, these are the older ones. I'm sure it's gotten better now because I think they use Japanese electronics, but back then they were using like German electronics. And I knew two people that had S4s, and I knew a guy who had an A6, and I knew a guy who had an A8. Every single one of them, within 3 months of going out of warranty, had some major $7,000 to $15,000 maintenance bill. I was like, how do they time that? Like, they must have some pretty good computer simulations to know exactly how to get everything to just fall apart and fail after the warranty. It's wild. Here, let me get through a couple more of these super chats real quick. Eric G, thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, how's it going, guys? Hope you're all having a good day. I mean, I am. Are you having a good day, Ox?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. Stop, grab a bite to eat. We'll watch while I'm driving. Well, nice. I mean, like, just listen. Just listen while you're driving. Yeah. Eric drives a big semi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nigel Watton, thank you. $27.12, man. Nigel Watton is like going full stripper on us.
Oh, those must be euros.
I feel like euros. We need to do like a little. That's like, yeah, that's what $27 get you these days. He said, paying my Saturday dues to watch on Sunday. Keep it up, guys. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Hey, Meat Puppet, my man, Meat Puppet 007. Thank you for the $2 super chat. He said the crazy part is, oh, I already read that one. The Tesla batteries are $17,000. No, go look. That is the cheapest battery. And a refurb. I looked at the refurbs, like $12,000 to $15,000 for a refurbed pack, which means it has cells in it that are probably, still have 80% of their capacity, but still are like 8 or 10 years old. Wow. So you're going to get a rebuilt battery pack, and like 2 years later, it's going to fail on you. Do not buy a refurb pack. Hey, Mr. Placeoff Official, thank you for your subscribe. I appreciate that, brother. Augustin, thank you for the $10 super chat. Again, hey, that's a $10 super chat. That's nothing here. We need to give a little, guys. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, woo! Woo! That's so fucking cool. Hey, Yukimi Kasuki, thank you for the $5 super chat. Said, just got to say, listen to you guys makes being stuck in bed because of a flare-up suck less.
Not bad,
Keep
man.
being
Feel
awesome.
better soon.
Hope you feel better. And I understand exactly how you feel because I spend a lot of time laid up in bed these days with all kinds of flare-ups. Zam, my man, thank you for another $10 super chat. Woo! Woo! Payday. He said, I almost bought a Tesla, but an article about them shipping with missing parts both those the brakes. Did you hear about that?
No.
The whole shipment of Teslas, nobody put the brake pads in them. They literally made it to the dealership and sold them to customers with no brake pads in them. And the cars were.
They're supposed to do so. When we bought this Ioniq 5 brand new, brand new, 12 miles on it, right? We couldn't, they called us up and said, hey, it's here, but you can't get it until tomorrow because our guy is doing the delivery test. He's got to drive it around and stuff and make sure everything works the way it's supposed to before we can check off on the delivery. Did nobody do that?
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing about Tesla.
Extra for the brake pads.
Under normal driving conditions, you never engage the physical brake pads on a Tesla.
Oh, because the regenerative braking and stuff.
Regenerative braking.
That makes sense.
Up to a lot. It's up to 300 horsepower of it is regenerative braking.
Wow.
So it's only when you're slamming the pedal to the floor, over 40 miles an hour, that the actual brakes engage to assist. Okay. So whoever test drove these things, and when they sold them to customers, as long as they were driving normal, they'd never notice. But the second that they cram them brakes on so hard that they have to do an emergency stop, the pistons from the caliper are going to just shoot right into the brake disc, and you're basically going to stop the car with the freaking cylinder itself and destroy the rotor, destroy the caliper. I mean, the car will probably stop a little faster, but it's not going to stop like it would have had brake pads. So I'm wondering how they figured that out. I'm wondering how they figured that out, because test driving, they wouldn't know. They'd sell it to the customer. Customer driving's not going to know unless they emergency stop. Did somebody have to actually like slam on the brakes really hard and have it like shoot sparks out and make loud noises before they actually like were like, oh shit, we should probably go check every customer's car? Jeez. That I don't know. But all I know is I did read that. I did read the headline for that story that's like Tesla sells a bunch of cars with no brake pads in them, and I was like, crazy. Oh my god, how do you skip that step? Like, because you'd think at the factory that they'd be required to do emergency braking as a part of the break-in of the car before they even send it to the dealer.
Yeah.
Like to test the system. They'd have like a computer simulation or a dyno or something where they engine brake and then do the physical brakes to make sure everything works. They obviously do not have that test, because if they did, there was no way these would make it off the assembly line. So yeah, I'm sure that embarrassed Elon a little. Hey, Zam, thank you for that $10 though. I appreciate that support, man. And you're right, never ship an incomplete product. But if you're going to ship an incomplete product, at least make sure that it has the safety features enabled. Because I would much rather have the dashboard fall apart than have the car not stop and rear end somebody at 100 miles an hour. That'd be the best.
Yeah.
Does anybody know? Was it all the brake pads, or was it just like the front brake pads or the rear brake pads? Because that I didn't get clarification on. But still, that's got to be the most embarrassing thing ever when your customer brings back their car and they're like, "Oh, it's making a noise." And it's like, "Oh shit, you don't got brake pads, bro." Like this can't stop.
Crazy.
Elon doesn't take breaks. Why should you?
Nice.
Elon may be embarrassed, but he's filthy rich. He ain't losing sleep, dude. That guy doesn't lose sleep over nothing.
Right.
That guy. The world is his oyster and his play toy and everything. Like, don't get me wrong. Elon has some cool shit going on, but man, he also like lies about a lot of stuff and manipulates a lot of stuff. So I'm not a huge fan personally. Although, did you hear he had a second kid? With old Grimes.
Yeah.
And then she like reported that they were back together, and then a day later reported that they were broke up again, but they still live each other deeply. Right. Like, man, there is some whirlwind romance going on over there.
All right, I guess.
Come on, man. Weird. It's like he's an interesting dude, but she still says she's fully committed. Like, even though they're like, oh, we still spend a lot of time together, and he's still my best friend, and I'm committed to the mission. So, man, Elon, he has got a silver tongue, that sumbitch. He can sell ice to an Eskimo. Let's hear Slightly Evil, aka Patrick. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, have a Ryzen 5 5600X with the GTX 1660 Super. It's handled every game I've thrown at it so far. Yeah, for like 1080p gaming, that's probably like perfect.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Most people don't like, yeah, you can game at 4K, but you have to have the screen for it.
Right.
Like if you have a small screen, it's like the difference between 1080p and 4K, like on a 20-inch screen, is negligible. Like for most people, it's negligible, especially if you have anti-aliasing enabled and everything like that, and all the little things to get rid of the jaggies and stuff. It's like, it looks good. It looks good at 1080p. So it's like, I'd rather have the more frame rate than the crisper resolution. But going to 4K is 4 times the power. So it's like to gain that resolution. Now, it makes sense if you have like a 74-inch screen, or you're sitting really close to like a 50-inch screen like I do. But it doesn't make sense for a small screen. It really doesn't. Because I've even gone to PDX LAN events where somebody has given me a 1440 monitor. Yeah. And I couldn't even tell the difference between the 1440 monitor and my 4K monitor, just because the pixel DPI was the same because of its size relative to the pixels.
Yep.
So just something to think about. All right. Well, now now that we're done with all the super chats, we can actually jump into topics for once.
All right.
Let's do it. You want to tell us about this extracting oxygen from the moon?
So
what is this shenanigans about?
This is a little more introductory than I thought it was. So I guess they've selected the industrial team. So here, I'll just quote from the article.
Do it.
As we do. And so just for folks who may be new to this, we tend not to actually like read the articles ahead of time. We find interesting headlines and things that might be cool to talk about. And then we go through this with you guys. We learn along with you.
That's right.
So I thought this was going to be some sort of more breakthrough in like, how we're going to extract oxygen from the moon. And I guess it is related. So following a competition, ESA, that's the European Space Agency, has selected the industrial team that will design and build the first experimental payload to extract oxygen from the surface of the moon. The winning consortium, led by Thales Alenia Space, I'm sure I mispronounced that. I apologize to my UK viewers here. In the UK, has been tasked with producing a small piece of equipment that will evaluate the prospect of building larger lunar plants to extract propellant for spacecraft and breathable air for astronauts, as well as metallic raw materials for equipment.
So it's a rover. They're going to send a rover to the moon to extract some oxygen from the soil to see how much they get.
It looks like it looks a lot like the module that humans landed on.
Okay.
And do what with it for rocket fuel and breathable air. CJ.
Yeah,
The compact.
Because if they can get oxygen, so I'm guessing if they're getting oxygen, they're probably pulling it from like water vapor that's in the soil, right? Or is there some other chemical they're breaking down into oxygen?
Let's see here.
Because I'm kind of curious how they're getting the oxygen. Like I'd understand if there was water
from
in the soil
dirt.
and they were like extracting the moisture, but I'm like, what else? It's
apparently
in a vacuum. There's
it's
no
from
moisture,
the dirt.
Right?
From the dirt. So it says the compact payload will need to extract 50 to 100 grams of oxygen from lunar regolith, which is dirt and rocks and stuff. It's the like the sandy stuff. And like we have regolith here, right? It's the like the more it's dirt. It's dirt. That's the best way of putting it. It's the regular sort of like
oxygen
dirt
trapped in it. That's crazy.
Yeah, targeting 70% extraction of all available oxygen within the sample while delivering precision measurements of performance and gas concentrations. So and then it has like a
45%, dude. 40 to 45% of the regolith is pure oxygen.
That's nuts.
And it's bound up chemically as oxides in the form of minerals or glass. So it's unavailable for immediate use. Okay, so they do have to use a chemical process to get the oxygen out of it, but that'd be they just need to send what they need to do that.
So I guess and then right at the end it says a prototype oxygen plant has been set up in ESTEC's Materials and Electrical Components Laboratory. Cool. This plant employs an electrolysis-based process to separate simulated lunar regolith into metals and oxygen, key basic resources for long-term sustainable space.
Oh, so it's similar to extracting oxygen from water, basically.
Super cool.
That's pretty. Yeah. It also says they get a metal as a byproduct too that they can use for stuff. So not only do they get oxygen, they also get a metal. They don't say what metal it is, but I'd imagine it's useful for something.
Right? There's enough oxygen in the lunar regolith to support billions of people living on the moon. The moon isn't big enough, I think, for billions of people. But okay, it's like it's tiny. The moon is freaking small. We get a couple tens of thousands, maybe.
45% though. That's wild, man. It's like, okay, so I mean, water technically contains more oxygen, right?
It's single most
not
abundant element. Yeah, that's cool.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that oxygen would be like such a huge component in dirt, in like moon dirt.
Yeah.
That's
kind of interesting to wrap your head around, isn't it?
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought that like the only way to really practically get oxygen with electrolysis was water. I didn't know, like, I want to see what this process looks like. Like, how are they doing electrolysis on a powder, like a crushed powder?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, are they mixing it with water, or are they mixing it with some kind of substrate and then using that to like do? I don't know. I want to look. I'm really curious on that.
Yeah, that's get back kind of cool. Let's see here.
I honestly, this is blowing my mind. Like, I didn't know that you could get oxygen out of like a rock, basically.
Yeah.
Now I know a lot of elements have oxygen in them as their makeup, right? You know, just like water has oxygen, there's a lot of other elements that oxygen is a component in their makeup and a part of their atomic weight, right? So but I didn't know that you could just like grab a shovel full of dirt and use electrolysis and get 45% oxygen out of it.
So I'm just poking around and Googling. I found this interesting write-up. I'm not sure from when, but this is out of the
Jack Ander Painting just said these are the metals that they can extract while getting the oxygen. So
cool.
Silica,
I was just about to say,
aluminum, lime, iron, magnesium, titanium, and sodium. So, that's God, awesome. That you could make anything out of that.
That's great.
Okay, let me click on this link you just sent me.
This is just a write-up from NASA at some point talking about oxygen extraction from lunar samples, and then they go into like what in this particular experiment or the experiments that they're talking about, it mentions the minerals or whatever that they were using.
Here's the formula right here.
Ilmenite, basalt, and then just the regular dirt, I guess.
Yeah, it said the process here is to break the chemical bonds, they basically heat the material to 900 C. That's hot. So they're basically liquefying the regolith.
Yeah.
And then exposing it to hydrogen gas. And when you expose it to hydrogen gas, it converts it from FeOH2 to FeH2O, and that gives them the water, and then they electrolyze the water to get the hydrogen.
Neat.
So they get water too.
Neat.
So they're not just getting oxygen; they're also getting water out of the deal. So
it's interesting. This quick write up actually talks about they're using samples from Apollo 17.
Okay. And the cool thing about this is because the process just requires hydrogen and heat, you can generate the heat from the solar panels and you can generate your hydrogen from extracting it from the regolith.
Yeah.
So you could
create a little bit to start, I imagine.
To start, yeah. You have to start the reaction, but you could theoretically just float it off of electricity once you get it started. I don't know. This is kind of cool. Like somebody figured this out.
Oh.
I just can't believe like if they could do this in any kind of volume, you could build everything, right? Like
yeah, that's everything you need.
Yeah, what in a spaceship isn't like one of those materials? Like I mean, other than like plastic fittings and stuff, but it's like titanium and iron. That's like probably or an aluminum. That's like 90% of everything that you use in building everything. That's pretty crazy. That's I wouldn't have guessed. I didn't know regolith had like that much cool shit in it. Like, I thought it was dirt. Like if we had dirt like that on the surface of Earth, why the hell aren't we just like mining the shit out of that and getting every metal out of it? You know?
Yeah.
Hey, GPG, thank you for the $5 super chat, my man. He said, pro tip on Ten's machine: don't put the pads on opposite side of metal spine rods. Oh my god.
Yeah, ow, then heat up.
Shoot out my eyes and lightning out my ass.
I'm sure that's hyperbole, but yeah, man, that should get hot.
I didn't know you had metal rods in your brother. I would have told you that.
Oh yeah,
I would have given you the heads up on that had I known you had metal rods in you. Yeah, you don't. The electricity in the TENS device is super high frequency, high voltage, low amperage. It's like a taser basically. And it connects through the muscle to make your muscle flinch. But if you have a metal rod or something in there, it's going to heat up like a freaking heater element. Wow. Well, I'm sorry, Gimps. I apologize for that. Yeah, no, there's a couple do nots with TENS device. So
that's like microwaving a fork.
Yeah, right. Did you know some microwaves, nothing happens?
Huh.
There's some microwaves. I don't know how they tune them or not, but I watched a video from a YouTuber who tried it in a bunch of different microwaves, and only one microwave gave him sparks, and the other ones didn't do anything. He kept the fork in there for like 10 minutes, nothing happened.
Yeah.
So I think it's the way they tune the Faraday cage, or maybe it's the way that it propagates or bounces around the radiation. They've figured out how to like make it to where it doesn't do that. Because I remember the old microwaves, like when I was a kid, if you stuck a fork in there, it was like a lightning storm.
Yeah.
I totally and so apparently modern microwaves don't really do that much, and it also depends on the fork too. Like the fork has to have really sharp tines. Like if they're dull tines, then it doesn't do anything. It has to have a sharp edge to propagate the spark off of.
Huh.
Very bizarre.
One of my favorite things. You take like a green grape or a grape. I think green ones are better, but and cut it in half, but leave some of the skin intact. Okay.
Oh, the plasma thing, right?
Lay it face down on like a plate or something, and microwave it. Yeah, you'll see it's like ball lightning kind of stuff. It's super
cool.
plasma.
Videos.
Yeah, great plasma. I did that as a kid one time. I saw that on TV or something. I'm like, this is cool shit.
Yeah, I've watched the YouTube videos. I've never done it. I've never done the experiment, but yeah. Oh, Andrew said a CD. I've done that before.
Oh, that's fun too. Yeah,
take a CDR because the foil layer that's on top of it just starts arcing lightning and like burning up before your eyes. I can't imagine it's cool, great for the microwave though.
I wouldn't think there's anything really. I mean, unless it catches fire or something, I can't imagine it's really bad.
Like, really,
because I mean, it's not like arcing to the magnetron or whatever, the beam. Or,
that's true.
Whatever.
That's true. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a sight to behold.
It is really cool.
The only thing you do have to be careful with like the microwave experiments that I've heard though is that it creates a shitload of ozone. So
I can
like
see that
when you create the plasma and you do the arcs and everything like that, like you open up the door, you'll get a huge old whiff of ozone, and ozone technically in high concentrations is poisonous to humans. Just FYI.
Yeah.
So like don't open up don't like open the door on your microwave, stick your head in there and start huffing really hard after doing the plasma experiment. And you'll probably be all right.
Yeah, this is neat, man. This oxygen extraction. It goes on to talk about volcanic glass, and then at the FeO content.
It said it could get it from the regolith or the glass. Like apparently both those
glass
things
is
can be
best.
found on the surface.
Yeah, that's neat.
I didn't know. Cool. I mean, I really didn't know the moon had like that much precious metals just suspended in its dirt right on the surface. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Super cool.
And I don't know what the makeup of the moon looks like. Like I don't know like the Earth where you have like the different crusts and molten core and stuff. I don't really know what the moon looks like inside. It's like how far. I wonder how far you could perceivably dig down before you basically just hit like bedrock. What?
Oh, the little doggo. Come here.
Oh, his little doggo. Is he still running around trying to hump everything in sight, or is he over that?
He's okay now.
He's good now.
Yeah.
What's up, doggo? What's up, wiener dog?
He's so cute.
Look at that little wiener dog.
Look at his little wiener.
Hanging brain.
All right.
Pornography.
Dude, we just doubled our viewership.
There's no bedrock, just petrified cheese. Yeah, it's turtles all the way down.
I'm gonna change the title of the stream with dog balls. Hey, run with your brung, cool. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, Jack Andrew, he said technically they have found gold, tungsten, and platinum up there too in small quantities.
Which makes sense. I mean, if you consider like the generally accepted like way the moon is or has been created, like the big blast on one side of the earth, knocking a chunk out and becoming like. Makes sense, right?
You know what? It does, because I mean, it started from here, so obviously it would have the same shit we have, right?
Yeah, it would have some of that stuff.
So actually, I do want to segue just a little bit because I just was reminded of something talking about space. The shenanigans going on with the International Space Station. Have you been following that? So because obviously, you know, Russia's being a bunch of pricks right now, or I should say their government. Like, I love the Russian people. The government's fucked. But anyways, they have cosmonauts on the International Space Station. Russia basically has like a 50% stake in that space station. And so they have their cosmonauts up there. And now they're talking about breaking ties with NASA and disconnecting their portion of the International Space Station and basically floating away because they can reboost their part of the space station. And apparently we can't.
Okay.
So no, but it gets worse. They also threatened to leave Ark because there's only enough room for the cosmonaut to come back on the Soyuz. And they said they're going to leave him, the American cosmonaut. They're basically like, we're just going to leave him. If you guys piss us off, we're going to leave him in the International Space Station and let it just fall to Earth and burn up. But
if they did that,
for you guys, we can.
There's no way. There's no way. Especially if they took their guys and not ours. How is that not a like act of war?
Yeah. The other scary thing is they're thinking that they're not even going to send him back now when they return next month. They're not going to send him because they don't want them to have an American hostage. Because if they don't give him a clear path to come back to the United States, like, oh, sorry, borders are closed, and they Edward Snowden the dude, what do you do, right? Yeah. So I think they're going to keep him up there on the space station until, you know, Musk can get another Dragon capsule up there or something to like recover him. But could you imagine what that must feel like? Like you're in space. Because I can't imagine like the cosmonauts. They're like family up there. I don't know if you've ever watched the videos, but like the American and Russian cosmonauts, they're tight, dude.
They're all science bros, man.
Yeah, like they gotta be pissed about
this. Nobody goes into this sort of a thing like so like gung-ho hardcore nationalist that you don't want to talk to other scientists and stuff. Like there's no way. Like you don't become that kind of a scientist, that kind of an astronaut without having a, like, in my opinion, at least, like a higher level of loyalty, like to humanity as a whole, not just where you're coming from. Like, man, like, and I do think it's shown oftentimes in how the space station astronauts like camaraderie and stuff.
Yeah. And I know the US for a fact would give them asylum in a heartbeat.
Oh, for sure.
Like if the Russian cosmonauts were like, oh, dude, we're gonna get punished if we don't like kill you guys and blow up the space station or whatever for political bullshit. Like, can we just come live in Colorado or something? I'm sure they'd be like, yeah, that's cool. We'll just say you burned up in re-entry and you can come back on the Dragon capsule. We'll give you
Operation Binder Clip or something, right? Just come on.
Just come on over, man. We'll add you to our space program. But that would just be so sad, man. That'd be like so sad to like actually be like watching the news up there because they have internet. They have high-speed internet on the International Space Station. So you're sitting there and you're just watching the news and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna order our rest. Now apparently this is all just two posturing people. I think it was it Scott Kelly, our astronaut guy, versus like their head of their space program, are going back and forth on Twitter, like making these idle threats and stuff. But so it's probably not in all seriousness, but it's just like hearing that, being on the space station, even hearing people going back and forth just like shit at each other. It's like, oh man, we're gonna abandon your guy and leave him for dead. It's like there's no way.
It's just mean. It's mean to even suggest
to even say that. Like, dude, these people did nothing. Like, that's your space program up there, dude. And you're like talking about using them as like murderers and missiles and making them like, you know, freaking military officers. It's like, dude, you're a dick. Like, don't be a dick, man. I do like that Scott Kelly stood up to him, though. I thought that was pretty funny. Like, Scott Kelly usually is like the super chill dude, super scientific and on point and everything. And he's like, what do you say? They said you can fly to space on on your broomsticks or something. I think that's how it all started.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, you can fly to space on your broomsticks, and then Elon Musk chimes in or whatever, and he's like, we're launching another broomstick with 46 satellites tomorrow or something. And then did you hear the launch countdown for the launch? So when Elon Musk launched the last batch of, like, I think it was 46 satellites or something a couple of days ago, they start off with the countdown, and it's like, all right, broomsticks carrying satellites to orbit in T-10, and they slipped that into the script. And I thought that was hilarious that they're just poking fun at. I'm like, dude, you say we can't get to space. It's like, these are our engines. These are our things. It's a commercial company, and we're literally putting more satellites into orbit than any other entity on the planet.
Yeah.
And we go to the International Space Station with the only vehicle that looks like the Starship Enterprise inside. Every other vehicle looks like the inside of like an old, like, communist Russia car. You know, the Soyuz. It's like the sitting in the Dragon capsule literally feels like you're in the future.
Jeez. Like,
it's the only vehicle you're going to space that actually is like what Americans that grew up on sci-fi think it looks like inside of a space capsule. Everything else just looks like a bunch of plumbing. And did you see the Soyuz? Like, they literally push buttons with a stick. Have you seen that?
I'm not surprised.
So when you're in the Soyuz capsule, this is how Russians solve problems. And again, it's like, the Russian people are clever. You know, they're clever as shit. So how would the Americans solve this problem? You're inside of the space shuttle. It's like you can't reach the panel. You can't push the buttons when you're fully, strapped in or whatever on takeoff, and you got that G-force on you and stuff. You just can't put your arm out, and you can't push the buttons because they're too far away. So the Americans would just redesign the whole craft, right? They'd just be like, all right, another $10 billion. The Russians just hand the dude a stick, a wooden stick that's about this long.
Yeah.
That the commander has used since like the 70s, and he just sits there with this stick and just pushes buttons and flips switches with a wooden stick. And I'm like, that's hilarious. Yeah. That's hilarious. I think the pencil versus space thing was a myth.
It's totally fake. They never used pencils. Nobody ever used pencils. You don't want graphite dust floating around in your sensitive electronics out in space. Yeah, nobody was using pencils,
right? It's like you don't want to breathe that either. Yeah, like that's dangerous.
Yeah, but I think it's used as an allegory for like the rudimentary, like, sort of simple beat it with a stick solution versus like the high level, like, elegant, overly engineered solutions that
I do like their solution to the pen, Russia. Though. Have you ever seen the space pen?
Oh yeah, it's super cool.
You can buy pressurized. It's just pressurized. They just they're like, that's an easy way to solve the problem. They're like, there's a little ball in the tip, and when you put pressure on it, the ball already pushes back up to let the ink out. So that's a perfect valve to just shut it down.
Grease pencils, yeah. But again, it's like that little blips of grease floating around, or even if they were letting any sort of like extra, but not the graphite pencils that are usually used in that story.
Yeah, I just hope everything works out on the International Space Station. I know it's probably just a lot of tough talk from like people on Twitter being all pissed at each other during a war, but I hope everything works out okay, because so many good things have come from the International Space Station. It's like, even just morale wise.
Yeah.
For like the United States, it's like in other countries that we've worked with on the space program, it's like that thing is a big deal, man. International Space Station is a big deal. That in a way, it's a kind of like neutral ground, right? It's like it's almost like an embassy in a way, like, because anybody can go there. That's a lot of people don't know that anybody can go to the space station as long as you're not from a banned country. Yeah. So there's obviously, if you're North Korean, you're not allowed to go there. I think if you're Chinese, you're not allowed to go there. But like if you're in a nation that isn't in conflict or whatever, that signed the treaty, you can go there. Like you could. AuxxZillary, if you could pay the money to get on the spacecraft and go there, they would let you onto the space station.
Neat.
And I think that's cool as hell. Like you wouldn't think
start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, you can. Like that's why they can take people like Elon Musk did and send them up to the International Space Station. It's like, if you have a means to get there through a safe and approved NASA mechanism, and you are not from an adversarial country or whatever, you can board the International Space Station. It's a government building, basically. Something along those lines. I'm sure that there's some rules on like how long you can stay. You probably have to bring resources to support yourselves. So there's probably all kinds of rules, but you can go to the if you can get there safely, you can go to the International Space Station and they will welcome you. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Also, did you know you can talk to the International Space Station over ham radio?
Yeah, that one I've heard about.
Go search on YouTube. There's so many guys that do it. Like they'll take their hams and they'll wait until they're right overhead, and they get like a 10-minute window where they get to talk to them. And there's tons of videos. They do this all the time.
Yeah, there's schools and stuff.
Do their little call sign and International Space Station, blah blah blah, and somebody will come back and be like, "Hey, you're coming in loud and clear up here. We're just flying over, your state or whatever. Oh, we're waving out the window right now." I was like, dude, that is so freaking cool. Watch, it's probably the neighbor just fucking with him, like the neighbor kid on his little handheld. Oh, come to the space station, coming in the kids. Oh man, he really believes this shit. Can you believe it? All right, what about this anti-aging shenanigans that you sent me last second? What is this about?
I've heard so I don't know about this one yet. Like I mentioned at the beginning, there are all kinds of weird, crazy stuff people do to like not look old or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what this one is, but we're gonna get into it. So Salk researchers treated mice with anti-aging regimen beginning in middle age and found no increase in cancer or other health problems later on. So let's see what we're doing here. Age may be a number, blah, 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 blah. Safely and effectively. So scientists at the Salk Institute in collaboration with Genentech, a member of the Roche group, probably Roche fancy. With an E at the end, French looking, have shown that they can safely and effectively reverse the aging process in middle-aged and elderly mice by partially resetting their cells to more youthful states. Ooh. Okay, so then let's see. There's a quick like overview of what aging is.
Like a telomere sipping thing or something, like a telomere tuck.
Let's see. In the new study, okay, so in the new study is oh man, I apologize for this, but is Pessoa Belmonte and his colleagues tested variations of the cellular rejuvenation approach in healthy animals as they aged. One group of mice received regular doses of the Yamanaka factors from the time they were 15 months old to until 22 months, approximately equivalent to age 50 to 70 in humans. Another group was treated from 12 to 22, 35 to 70, and a third group. Okay, so hold on. Let's go backwards a little bit.
Gene therapy or something?
Yeah, okay. So in 2016, Belmonte's lab reported for the first time that they could use Yamanaka factors to counter the signs of aging and increase lifespan in mice with a premature aging disease. Yamanaka. So what are these Yamanaka factors? Let's scroll back a little bit. I maybe skimmed too quickly here. Okay. As organisms age, it is not just their outward appearances and health that change. Every cell in their bodies carries a molecular clock that records the passage of time. So, like as you age,
stem cells, yeah,
as your cells split and multiply and stuff, they're only allowed to do so for so long before they just.
Yeah, you have something called a telomere. I don't know much about it, but I know that with each generation of cells, when you have cellular mitosis and your cells split. The telomeres get a little longer, and they can actually figure out the age of a creature based on the length of its telomeres.
Right on.
And once they get to a certain length, the cell just stops rejuvenating as often, and you essentially just start rotting, like you die of old age because your organs shut down.
Cells isolated from older people or animals have different patterns of chemicals along their DNA called epigenetic markers compared to younger people or animals. Scientists know that adding a mixture of 4 reprogramming molecules, OCT4, SOX2, KLF4 and CMYC, also known as Yamanaka factors, to cells can reset these epigenetic marks to their original patterns. This approach is how researchers can dial back adult cells, developmentally speaking, into stem cells. Wow. So
that's kind of cool.
Belmonte's lab reported for the first time that they could use these Yamanaka factors to counter the signs of aging and increase lifespan in mice with a premature aging disease. More recently, the team found that even in young mice, the Yamanaka factors can accelerate muscle regeneration. Following these initial observations, other scientists have used the same approach to improve the function of other tissues like the heart, brain, and optic nerve, which is involved in vision. Oh, you think?
Oh, and your optic nerve doesn't regenerate, so that's impressive. Like if it can do that, because then you wouldn't get you wouldn't lose your vision over time. That's baller. Like I hope that goes somewhere. That'd be nice.
What we really wanted to establish was that using this approach for a longer time span is safe. Indeed, we did not see any negative effects on the health, behavior, or body weight of these animals. Wow. No. So compared to control animals, there were no blood cell alterations or neurological changes in the mice that had received the Yamanaka factors. Moreover, the team found no cancers in any of the groups of animals, which I imagine is a big concern. So that cancer is when your cells just start freak out and don't stop replicating. That's the major. I mean, I'm sure there are other causes for cancer, but the actual like what is cancer is like certain cells get broken and they multiply out of control.
Yeah, it's like they're supposed to die or the body's supposed to reclaim them, but they just get damaged enough that the body doesn't reclaim them and they don't die and keep replicating in their broken state.
Yeah.
And that's why they usually turn into tumors, because when the cell isn't properly like regenerating, it basically just keeps creating a clump. Like it doesn't cleanly break away. It just creates a mass.
So let's see. When the researchers looked at normal signs of aging in the animals that had undergone the treatment, they found that the mice in many ways resembled younger animals. In both the kidneys and skin, the epigenetics of treated animals more closely resembled epigenetic patterns seen in younger animals. When injured, the skin cells of treated animals had a greater ability to proliferate and were less likely to form permanent scars. That's cool.
You know what's funny is I knew I recognized this when you sent me the link. I knew I recognized this and I've seen it before. This is an NPR video. I'm going to link it here in chat. This is an NPR video from 2 years ago that I watched. And I just remembered, like, while you were reading this off, I was like, dude, I remember an experiment where they took 2 mice that were from the same litter. They were brothers, and one of them aged normally and the other one they treated. And you can see from the screenshot in the video, if you open it up, it's like one of the mice has like gray hair. He's clearly aging. His nose. The other one looks perfectly healthy.
Wow.
And they're brothers. They were raised the same, fed the same. They went through the same exercise. They went through the same everything. And one of the mice is clearly aging and losing mass, and the other one looks like he's young.
Yeah.
So if they could do this with a mouse, you know, it's like that's a good indicator that they could do it with other cellular life. So
they put some molecule they call NMN into their water, and like it like this one mouse just isn't aging. Wow.
Wait, it's not even like injected, like they're just ingesting it and that's happening?
I just saw a quick just in the captions. Yeah, it said that they put this molecule into the water.
Dude, how weird would that be if society like perfected that and just put it into the water table and didn't tell anybody and we all just stop aging?
That's
We're
nuts.
like, I'm celebrating my 153rd birthday. Something's up here.
Like there's I mean, it sounds weird, by the way. It sounds weird and creepy, but like there's they can like take your blood, spin it out, clone it up, and like I guess de-age it. Like there's like blood replacement therapies and stuff where, you know, you get like filled up big transfusions of like young blood to like keep you from getting old and stuff or feeling old and whatnot.
Like the transfusions of younger people's blood, like they experiment. Right. I don't think it went anywhere though.
I can't imagine. That's just super weird and creepy.
I know that they do a really crazy. So this is what Lance Armstrong did. One of the many things. See, that guy was the biggest drug addict ever with performance enhancing stuff. Yeah. But one of the things he did that was like most controversial, but also like one of the things that kind of skirts the rules just a little bit, is that he was doping his blood like naturally by going to high elevations and riding his bike like all day, like basically suffocating himself.
What's wrong with that? Like that seems
no. But watch this. What he does normally, if you did that, as soon as you came back down to elevation, within a couple of hours, your blood would return to its normal oxygen levels.
Okay.
What he does is he went to high elevation and they took his blood out. They took out several pints of his blood and preserved it in that state of super high oxygenation and like nitrous right before the race, like 10 minutes before the race starts. They take him in the camper, hook up him to IV, transfuse this highly oxygenated blood inside of him, and when he takes off, he doesn't fatigue as fast. So it like gives him another couple of miles of full 100% without having to back off. And so I was like, man, that is a lot of work to just give you that that little jump over the course of like, an hour or two. But yeah, it's crazy when I watched that. Yeah, blood doping. That's what it was. I was like, that is so like, how did somebody figure that shit out? Like, okay, if I go right at elevation, then I'll become hypoxic. My body will start causing me to hyperventilate, which is going to hyperoxygenate my blood because it thinks you're suffocating. And so it's holding on to more oxygen in your blood. Yeah. And then you transfuse that out. And then when you go down to regular elevation, you put it back in and your body has this massive surplus of oxygen that just shows up. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's like that seems like a lot of work just to get like a little nitrous jump.
So you can buy this NMN stuff, apparently.
Oh shit, I want some.
It's called nicotinamide, nicotinamide. I'm going to say that it probably has a root in nicotine. Nicotinamide, mononucleotide.
Oh shit, it's a supplement. You can buy it.
It's a thing. You can just buy this stuff. And apparently it had some interesting results by feeding it to these mice a few years ago. It's a nucleotide derived from ribose and nicotinamide. And
here it is right here.
Derivative.
Check this out. Common names. common names for nicotinamide.
Yeah.
Vitamin B3, niacin acid. so basically it's vitamin B contains it, and not what is it, niacic acid or whatever, the shit that is energy drinks.
Sure.
So that this is already in like everything you're eating every day. It just probably needs to be in high concentrations, would be my guess.
Let's see. So this is from the Wikipedia article. Because NADH is a cofactor for processes inside mitochondria, for sirtuins, and for PRAP, NMN has been studied in animal models as a potential neuroprotective and anti-aging agent. Dietary supplement companies have aggressively marketed NMN products claiming these benefits. Single-dose administration of up to 500 milligrams was shown safe in men in a recent study at Keio University School of Medicine in Shinjuku, Tokyo. 2021 clinical trial found that NMN improved muscular insulin sensitivity in pre-diabetic women.
Okay.
Enzymes essentially for exogenously administered utilization of NR and NMN. Some research suggests that administered exogenously, NMN must be converted to NR, which I don't see a definition for that. Converted NR in order to enter a cell and be rephosphorylated back to NMN. So the NMN, the nicotinamide mononucleotide, is
different?
a little bit different from the nicotinamide riboside.
Okay.
So you have somehow your body, it looks like there's a bunch of oxygen that gets taken off just looking at the molecular structure map that they're showing. It looks like there's a whole bunch of oxygens that get chunked out.
They're not just dumping vitamin D tablets in the water.
It's a little different. Yeah, both. Interesting. Molecular structures are roughly the same, except NMN has an added phosphate group, making it a larger molecule. Some scientists believe that NMN is too large to cross cellular membranes and must convert to NR before entering cells, where NAD plus biosynthesis occurs. Otherwise, NMN would need to be transported into cells by a transporter specific for NMN, possibly such as SLC12A8.
I'm confused. It's a lot of
Dietary sources. NMN is found in fruits and vegetables such as edamame, broccoli, cabbage, cucumber, and avocado.
There's a lot of substances that you can buy legally that are like you shouldn't be able to.
That's neat, man. I mean, wow. That's kind of neat. Too many big words. I'm sleepy. Sorry. I like trying to figure out the like pseudo Latin stuff for these like chemical names and stuff. It's fun for me.
So you know what I found out the other day? So I've been kind of off and on. People have been talking about kratom. I'm sure you've heard of it too.
Oh yeah. To like wean you off of heroin and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm looking at it as a potential to try to replace, having to take opiate-based pain medication.
Oh yeah,
for so long.
Yeah,
and so I'm going to start playing around with it a little bit, and I've been doing some research on it, and I'm like, wait a second, though, it is classified as an opiate. It literally, it does stimulate your opiate reuptake, just like a traditional opiate. So it is categorized as an opiate, but it's a legal opiate, which is weird because it skirts the law.
There was some big kerfuffle at one point where I don't know if it was a federal thing or certain states were going to try and categorize it. It was category 1 stuff.
It's banned in 3 states now.
And and like there was a huge uproar about it. Like, this is how I've been able to kick my heroin habit. Like, I'm not a fucking druggie anymore because of this stuff. Like, if you guys take this stuff away, you're going to be like killing people because they're going to end up having to go back to like street heroin and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's weird though, because like anytime I've actually seen like a sign or something for it, it's usually from like a weird sketchy like vape shop or
right.
Like,
it's always like some I'll like stand on the side of the road, and they don't sell it on Amazon or anything like that.
Yeah.
So you have to buy it from somebody who's like specifically importing it.
It's like a weird, but hey man, if it works, it was great. If it works, awesome.
Yeah, unlike you said, I heard kratom has withdrawal issues. Well, dude, it's literally an opiate. Of course, it's going to have some withdrawal issues.
If it at least like acts as one in your body, then yeah, of course.
Correct.
But yeah. I imagine it's fucking less.
No, it's
than going cold
ridiculously low compared to. Yeah, no, that's the thing. So the way you get off of an opiate, I know because I've had to be on them for 14 years. The way that you get off them, you titrate. You basically drop down to something that's lesser over time. And so your body can adjust to lower and lower and lower doses. It's also how you keep potency up, so you don't have to go up, and because that's how most people get really, really addicted, is they keep going up and going up and going up and how much they take to get the same effect, because your body, your brain baselines off of it. So the only way to keep that effect is to titrate off, go back up, titrate, and you just bounce back and forth. That's a really hard thing to do. Kratom, though, offers an interesting solution because Kratom is also a stimulant, like coffee. So the stimulant effect helps with withdrawal. The Kratom itself is an incredibly weak opiate. We're talking not even in the same ballpark in mass quantities as something like Vicodin, like the lowest opiate there is. And so it's actually a great stepping stone for people coming down. Now, again, going up, just like coffee, people that are addicted to coffee, because caffeine is a super highly addictive substance. Yeah, me too. Of course, Kratom's going to have is going to have some addiction properties, because and that's why they're worried about it, is because it's a stimulant. It's not unlike Adderall. Like, the people that have done the medical trials said that its effects are very similar to Adderall. Yeah. And it's really good for pain management, but it's not enough of an opiate to really get you high. Like, apparently you'd have to eat like half a bag of this shit, which would get really expensive really fast. It's not cheap. But they haven't classified it yet. But they're working on it. That's the thing. Yeah. It could go away at any time. So I'm not saying like run out and like get this shit or anything, but I'm just saying, if you have any kind of any kind of like an opiate resistance or something like that, and you want to work the other direction, or you want to titrate down to something weaker, it might be a good option. Yeah. So I'm gonna look into it. I'll let you guys know how it goes. I've got some on the way. So cool. I'm going to give it a try, and it's perfectly legal, 100% legal right now. Even though people are like contesting it.
I feel like Washington wouldn't be one of those ones to be weird about it.
Yeah, and then plus they sell it at like every dispensary, but I decided I'd order it from like a really reputable place online.
That's smart.
Yeah,
you don't want to be cut with pay the sawdust or something.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure I don't get the stuff that's like, they said to me it's like grass that's been ground up or whatever. But no, I'll let you guys know how it goes. Yeah, no. Okay, just to be clear, yes, it's technically not an opiate. It just acts on the same receptors. Yeah. So it's basically simulating it's simulating what an opiate would do it to you. But the other thing I've heard about is it has a way longer half-life in your system. So whereas an opiate falls off really quick and you have to use it again, apparently people are saying like you can take Kratom and go an entire day.
Wow.
So I'm curious about that. So
talk to your doc about it. Of course.
You definitely should talk to your doctor before doing anything. Absolutely. But remember, he's a pain doctor, so of course he's gonna be like, yeah, go for it, bro. like let me know how it goes. Right. As a matter of fact, most doctors are pretty open. Like, when you have chronic pain that can't be treated through conventional means, they're usually open to shit. Like honestly, my doctor tried to get me like on weed like 20 times. Because he's like, literally, it's the lowest risk, lowest addiction, and lowest withdrawal of all of the pain relief things. Unfortunately, I have a really bad reaction to it. Otherwise, I do it. Yeah. So I'm still looking for other things. But yeah, no, the reason I've been on opiates for 14 years is because literally we've tried everything. We went through the entire gamut. I'm either allergic to it, or it causes really bad headaches. That's the other problem I had, is with like the pain patches and stuff. Man, give me nuclear migraines that just would not go away. Like, I'd rather just be suffering and in pain than have a migraine 24/7. Actually, that's true. Yeah. Tramadol and codeine are the weakest opiates. No, you're absolutely true. Those are below Vicodin. Tramadol is a super weak opiate. Tramadol is like Tylenol plus. But yeah, that's the thing, is like with Kratom, even though it's technically operates on your opiate receptors in your body, it's not nearly as addictive of a substance as like heroin or oxycodone or OxyContin or fentanyl or Dilaudid. I mean, there's a lot of opiates out there.
They don't make those ones anymore, right? What, those the ones from Wolf of Wall Street?
No, those are Quaaludes, dude.
Oh, okay.
Those are the ones that like those they don't do those anymore. Those are the ones that like make you like really, really like chill and mellow. What do they call them? There's a class. They're like not benzodiazepines. They're Oh shit, what are they called? I can't remember. The downers. Yeah, they haven't used them in forever. They're like literally they haven't even manufactured this medication for like 20, 30 years. Huh. But no, the all of the opiate stuff that I mentioned, like Dilaudid and stuff like that, those are all different concentrations of a different opiate, but they act on your brain very similar. Fentanyl is the one that's like scary.
That's
fentanyl. It's not dosed in milligrams. It's dosed in like micros.
It's like four little dust particles.
It's 1,000 times more potent per milligram.
That's so weird.
Is oxycodone. which means you literally have to dose it with like a micrometer. Like it's not like you get 2 grains of sand, you die. Like that's not something you ever want to fuck with illicitly. Yeah, barbiturates. That's what it was, a barbiturate. So yeah, no, fentanyl's scary, but unfortunately there's some people that have such severe pain that fentanyl is the only thing that touches it. And I feel bad for those people because it's like there's nowhere to go from there. Like there's nothing stronger. So as soon as you cap out on that and you can't take it anymore, you just have to suffer. And that sucks. That sucks to think about that. Wait, we still use barbiturates? Really? Oh, I thought they discontinued that shit forever ago. Hey, Mama Luigi said, my uncle has to use fentanyl and ketamine for his back pain. He gets it from his pain doctor. Yeah, you have to go to a pain doctor. I have a pain doctor too. You have to go to a pain doctor past a certain point. General practitioners can only prescribe pain medication for either short periods of time or low dose. When you have to go up to a higher dose or you need to do it over time, like it's something you have to do for the rest of your life, then you get referred to a pain doctor. And a pain doctor's entire job is to monitor your pain, find alternate solutions, try new things, but keep you as comfortable as they possibly can. Because it turns out that when you're hurting all the time and you can't sleep, your health goes to shit really quick. It's weird, but people don't understand that. But you eventually get to a point where it's like everything is a balance between the worst of 2 evils, right? Or the less of 2 evils, rather. Yeah. So when you look at it and it's like, okay, if you were in horrible pain, you can't sleep and you're suffering and your stress level's high and your blood pressure peaks because you're in so much pain, you will die much faster than literally being put on an opiate permanently and being forced to slow down and being forced to be comfortable. You will live longer and you will be more comfortable. And that's why in hospitals, they always say, don't wait until the pain. They say they stay ahead of the pain. If you've ever heard that and you go to the hospital, they're like, don't wait until the pain's really bad. Like, tell us the second it starts getting bad, we're going to come in and give you more medication. And the reason being is that's huge to the healing process. Pain raises your blood pressure. Raised blood pressure and heart rate creates issues, especially after surgery and blood clots and shit like that. So they really, really want to keep you comfortable. And pain is the number one way to ensure that you're not comfortable. Once you hit a certain point of pain, you can't sleep. And if you can't sleep, your body can't heal. Your mind starts slipping. Your immune system craps out on you. So it sucks when you get to that point where it's like it is the least 2 evils. But now it's like throughout my life, it's like I understand it now. I didn't understand when I was younger, but I do understand it now today that there's some people that unfortunately just don't have an option. And it really fucking sucks for them. And I feel for them. Yeah. Hey, Yorkshire, thank you for the $6.78 super chat. He said, hey, dudes, lovely to see you as always. What piece of very old tech amazes you that's still in use today? Would you replace it or leave it? I mean, there's a lot if you think about it, like microwave ovens, irons, TV. Like, are we talking older than that? Are we talking like pre-electronic revolution or industrial revolution? Like, what are we talking here? As far as
because like
toilet like, probably.
Do you want? I mean, we could go really old school and just be like the fulcrum.
Yeah, the wheel.
You know,
like I mean
pulleys. Pulleys are really cool. Yeah. I like pulleys a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, Newton got it right.
I'm a big fan of the what's that, the water screw, right, to pull water up. You know, that's the Archimedes thing. Yep.
Archimedes screw. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
And now they use it today for like moving grain to silos and stuff.
Fire is a pretty cool tech.
I mean, airplane's pretty old, right? Over 100 years now. So the automobile, like, what has really changed? I mean, now we got electric automobiles, but it's still 4 wheels and an engine. And
that's so weird. It never ceases to like blow my mind. Like, look how far we took airplanes in 110 years or whatever, right? And look how far we haven't come in cars.
You're right.
Like we still basically are blowing up ancient dinosaur planets or plants and you know, like what? Like, I mean, we're basically still doing the same thing for airplanes too, right? The internal combustion engine and all, but like we've done an incredible job in moving from like props to like jet engines and things like that. Like, we advanced the technology in huge significant ways. The basics of hell, I mean, like a diesel engine, although
I think exactly the same.
Although I think like when it comes to the diesel engine, like that's one of those designs that like, how do you really improve on that? Like that it was a very elegant solution to the problem, and outside of maybe just efficiencies, like
they just got it really right in the beginning. Is what you're saying. Like, it's amazing. Nailed it.
Yeah, like the basic concept of a diesel engine has not changed since diesel showed it off in 1908 or whatever the fuck. really it's a little bit more efficient and stuff, and like glow plugs and whatnot have kind of improved in that sense. But like,
to be fair though, there are like 10 different iterations of internal combustion engines that all died for one reason or another because the piston engine was still superior.
Well, so MD Hostier says we went from a few miles an hour to over Mach 1 for the land speed record.
True.
But that's not like commonly like used technology, right?
And, and even still, too.
That's basically a solid fuel rocket with wheels. Like, that's a little different. It's not an internal combustion engine. Like those massive speed record things are
not the ones that are doing like breaking the speed of sound, because you can't get enough traction to the ground to do that.
Yeah, that's not car technology, you know.
No, but if you think about it, you're right. Like, because look at the only other engine that I can think of in my head. Actually,
rotary.
There's two engine technologies I know that still are around today in one form or another, but they had some severe downsides that kind of doomed them.
Steam.
And well, no, not steam does. I'm talking like internal combustion, not like steam wouldn't be a combustion engine. It'd be a pressure engine.
Sorry, frying pan.
But I would say it'd be the hit and miss engine, which is still used today. If you've ever seen one of those, the hit and miss engine, basically, the cylinder doesn't fire on every rotation. So if you put more load on it, the cylinder fires more often. But it basically uses like a centrifugal force governor that only feeds fuel in the cylinder and sparks it when the engine slows down to a certain point.
Yeah.
So if you've ever heard them, they're like. That's what they sound like. They're crazy. They use them on farms and stuff for running equipment and shit. It's they're amazing. I love them. They're still around today. People still build them. The other one that I would say people probably know is the Wankel rotary engine.
Yeah.
That's the most like spaceship, way different than internal combustion cylinder engines. Like it's basically just rotational chambers that carry out the 4 strokes of a 4-stroke engine, but do it by going in a circle instead of going up and down.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you maintain momentum in one direction. You're not having the cylinder have to stop and come back and putting all that stress.
Yeah. There is an interesting, at least attempt at like a change to the internal combustion engine.
But the problem is they burn oil like crazy because it's really difficult to form a good oil seal between these pressurized chambers. So is it because you have to spray oil into the cylinder and you expect these apex seal things to wipe the oil and reclaim it, and they don't do a good job of it.
Didn't Mazda recently patent an improved rotary engine? People were saying like, oh, they're going to bring back the RX 10 or what, they're going to bring back the RX series.
So rotaries have a huge advantage over other than the oil burning, and that's why they died, was because emissions were the problem, and they're not very fuel efficient. At least they weren't, because it's really hard to change the compression ratio on a Wankel rotary engine, just because the nature of how the chambers work and stuff like that. So they're not as efficient, and they can't dynamically change their compression ratio either, which like new engine tech can do. The cylinder engines can do that with timing and such. But the cool thing about a rotary engine is it's perfectly balanced, so they're smooth as shit. Like there's you're not having to use like time the cylinders to go off at different times to counterbalance the engine. It's like the rotational masses are perfectly opposite of each other. So they cancel each other. They cancel each other out, and you get this really nice, smooth running engine. They rev to crazy RPM, so your power band is up to like 14,000 RPM.
Isn't the rumor that like there wasn't a top end, like they could just go faster and faster and faster until they exploded? They just tear themselves apart, right?
Yeah,
which makes sense considering the design, because like it's like a self-feeding cycle, right? Like as the revs go up, then it's going to go faster, and it's going to go faster because it's going to go faster and faster. Like
the only thing limiting is how much air and fuel can get into it, and the metallurgy. Like as long as the engine can hold the pressure, you can just pump in more boost, more fuel, and it'll go. And the other thing about them that's really cool is they're small. Internal combustion cylinder engines waste a lot of space, because all the space under the cylinder, when the cylinder is coming up and compressing and coming down, there's a lot of wasted space in the width of the cylinder, and having to have the oiling system on it and everything on the bottom. It just makes the engine big and unwieldy and heavy. A rotary engine that puts out like 700 horsepower, 2 dudes can just pick up and walk around with. So they're really lightweight. But and the other thing too is they don't last as long. Like piston engines can go 200,000, 400,000, 1 million miles, right? There's some piston engines that have made it 1 million miles on their original seals.
Easy.
So rotary engines, no. Rotary engines, you're going to be rebuilding that thing like every 150,000 miles, and it'll be burning a lot of oil and losing a lot of compression.
Check this out. So I was right about Mazda bringing back rotary motors.
Oh no shit.
In spring of this year, spring 2022, the Hiroshima-based car maker, I didn't know that Mazda was based out of Hiroshima.
I kind of feel bad now.
Will add a rotary-powered plug-in hybrid model to its ever-expanding MX-30 lineup. So it's looks like a crossover. Yeah,
rotary hybrid. That's interesting.
Yeah,
so that'll be a first of its kind because they never had any hybrids in the RX-8 or the RX-7.
No, this is like a different. I guess they had shown off like a sports car concept, like just as a render or whatever. But they're, it's a strong hybrid. They call the MX-30. MX-30.
I wonder if they solved the sealing of the engine problem because. I mean that's always been the problem with the engine. They have so much blow by.
Interesting. So it says it will the MX-30 PHEV, which is plug-in hybrid version, will incorporate an electric motor, the rotary, with a 300 to 400. Will incorporate an electric motor with a 300 to 400 cc rotary engine that acts solely as a generator, charging the batteries. Mazda calls it a series plug-in hybrid, meaning the gasoline-powered rotary engine isn't connected directly to the wheels, merely providing juice to feed the electric battery and motors.
And that would make a really efficient generator because generators want to run at high RPM. And so a rotary engine can run efficiently at high RPM, which means you don't need a complicated gearbox to ratio up because gearboxes take torque out, right? They lower your efficiency. So if you had a rotary engine that gets like a little rotary engine that could spin at 14,000 RPM, you could probably just plug that right into a freaking generator and put out like a shitload of voltage.
400 cc's. It's like,
yeah, a little one.
That's neat.
I like rotary engines. I think rotary engines are really cool. Like just the way they work. If you ever see, because they're flat too. They're not like a traditional engine's like really long because they got the rows of cylinders. Like think of it like a one piston engine is really what it is. A rotary is just a really fast, really big displacement one piston engine.
Yeah.
And they're pretty damn cool. Okay, well, before we wrap up here, brother, because we got just a couple more minutes here.
Sure.
The last topic I wanted to talk about was a potential for another chip shortage because of the neon production issue because of Ukraine, unfortunately. So if you guys haven't heard, and I didn't know this, I just learned this yesterday. I had no fucking clue that we were this dependent on Ukraine.
Yeah, this is big news the last couple of days talking about this.
Yeah, this to me is even bigger than the grain shit, right? That everybody was talking about. Yeah. So so Ukraine apparently pulled like 40% or 45% of the world's neon production.
Yeah.
So like Ukraine alone, that's a lot. Like I don't know of many other things that a country controls like 50% of the worldwide supply.
Yeah, right.
So now you're thinking, okay, neon gas, big deal. Okay, we don't use neon bulbs anymore. We have LEDs, like fuck neon. Well, unfortunately, neon gas is used in ultralithography and a lot of it.
The lasers, yeah.
So the tiny little 5 nanometer laser that's carving up your CPU and your computer and your GPU and literally every chip and every device that you have. Well, even though the foundries for those are in other countries like China and South Korea and Taiwan, unfortunately, the neon gas that they all run on mostly comes out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
So because Ukraine is now shutting down neon production because of the war and what's going on, that could have a severe detriment on ramping up chip production. Now, Taiwan came forward, TSMC came forward and said, don't worry about it. We stockpiled shitloads of neon. We're good to go for a long time. Don't even worry about it. But we haven't heard anything from the other foundries. So hopefully Taiwan isn't lying about that, because if so, Taiwan's about to become like the biggest chip manufacturer in the world for a while. But yeah, neon, I did not know that neon was that important to the production of CPUs and GPUs. Blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it all comes from Ukraine, apparently. Like, what? Like,
crazy.
That was...
Not to go down like a weird political angle, because I know we try to sometimes it comes up, and I know we try to kind of hedge away from it, but it just seems I keep coming back around to this. It's so weird that Russia's even doing this.
Yeah,
like I understand some of the analytics I know what Russia is saying, why, or the Russian government is saying why they're doing it. I've listened to a few different angles on like external experts or whatever, people talking about like some of the motivations behind this and stuff. But it's like we're and I think we talked about this last week, kind of like we're, economically speaking, we are a global populace.
Yeah,
like if
we all depend on each other.
Yeah, like it's just so weird that that they want to shake it up like this, that anybody wants to shake it up in such a like massive way, without, like, I don't know, man, it's just weird. if it's an economic thing that Russia's trying to really the motivation behind it, why couldn't they have found a diplomatic solution?
That's why I feel like it's more this is Putin's like glory to the USSR kind of last
so weird.
rather than making sense.
Because it's like okay, like people talking about, okay, well, China's watching to see how the world reacts to this, and if it goes a certain way, then what does that mean for Taiwan? Well, okay, are we going to start sanctioning China? Because like, and then if China is going to react and say, well, okay, nobody gets rare earth metals anymore, you all can't be, we're not going to export anything anymore. Fuck you guys. We're just not going to send out chips and stuff and electronics and all your cheap shit that you've been relying on us for. You don't get it anymore. They'll collapse too. Like it seems like it's just as dangerous as nuclear war. Like, you know, okay, like what are you going to do? It's super weird because if nobody's buying shit from China, like, okay, so Americans can't get iPads and whatever, and graphics cards and all this stuff, and in Europe now can't get oil and natural gas because Russia fed like 60% of their power plants and stuff. But then Russia's economy is collapsing and like people are going to be starving and stuff. Like it's
happening fast.
I can only imagine it's going to be like those pictures that you see sometimes of like bread lines and you know, Lenin status, fucking communist country stuff.
It'll be like North Korea, but way bigger scale.
Weird. It seems so weird. And like I just
feel like he was losing his hold, or he's just getting old and he knows his days are numbered or whatever. He's just like, fuck it. I got the power. I'm going to use it.
And like, I don't know
That's
enough.
what I'm getting the vibe.
You know, I'm no fucking economic or foreign policy expert or anything like that, but just the little bit that I see and how it looks from someone, the average person.
Yeah. And they can't even hold it. That's the thing. Like okay, so we did the calculus, right? They can't hold Ukraine. It's too big of a landmass. At best, they can take over the capital cities and they can replace the government and they can hold the capital cities, but it's so spread out over such a large landmass, they will never ever actually be able to hold it.
Weird, man.
So I don't know what their like end game is. Like, okay, so you go in there, you take the capital cities, you install your people. You're just going to constantly have an unending resistance, just like you did leading up to the ousting of the last dude, right? It's not going to end.
If they do, like, okay, say they win, like, okay, they take over and they annex all of Ukraine. Well, wouldn't just like most of the heavy hitters on the global playing field just turn their back and say, okay, so you control Russia or Ukraine's like oil and gas off the coasts and all this stuff and whatever, in the pipeline that cuts through the country stuff. We just won't buy from you.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I feel bad for the Russian people though, because it's like, dude, could you imagine just waking up and like no Starbucks, no McDonald's, no iPhone, no high-speed internet, no PlayStation, no Xbox One, no online services, no independent media, no access to Facebook. Like, I mean, in like a days.
A giant North Korea.
That's
humongous fucking North Korea. They'll just cut themselves off.
Move this fast.
They'll cut themselves off from the world, and they'll try. And again, I don't understand it. I'm just a dude, just an average schmuck from the United States. So like, I don't know, but like, it just seems really weird.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really gets it. Honestly, I don't think anybody has the whole picture, but old Putin's. But I just hope it doesn't escalate, because I don't want my son to live in a World War III. Like that's, I didn't go and, you know, create life to plunge him into a freaking world war.
Yeah.
And so I'm really hoping that this gets solved amicably. I'm really hopeful that at some point shit's going to at least go back to somewhat normal.
It seems like the foot soldiers and stuff aren't having it. It's not, it can't last forever. Because like this, it seems like that's not what they signed up for, you know?
Yeah, I've been hearing.
How you guys liking those gas prices? It's literally better than it was in 2008.
Yeah, that's true. 2008, it was.
It's not that bad.
We almost touched $6 a gallon here in Washington.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was then. So
yeah,
if that was and I don't mean to accuse, because it seems a rather benign question, but if it was some sort of sideways jab at the president, like Bush was worse.
Yep.
Sorry.
But it's not that bad. This is the thing is like we complain here in the United States. We're very lucky to have low gas prices.
Man.
Like you go to Canada, it's like $2 a liter,
not a liter, and there's 4 liters to a gallon.
Yeah,
or
it's like
just shy of
$9 a gallon. Australia, it's more than that. In Europe, it's way more than we pay for gas. So it's like we're just used to having cheap gas. But here's the thing: we should be lucky about. We're only down 10% production, so we only need a 10% price hike if all other things are equal to get rid of Russian dependence. If you live in Europe, you have a 40% dependence on Russia with your gas prices already being that high.
Yeah.
Like be happy you live in the United States, man, if you like to drive around. Because even though gas is getting really expensive compared to living in Europe with this going on, holy shit, I'd be shitting a brick if I lived over there.
And so, fuel's more expensive in the UK than 2008. Fuel's more expensive in the UK compared to the United States anyway.
Is there any place where gas is cheaper in the United States? Like, I haven't even looked. Like, is Mexico cheaper gas?
Not.
Like, I don't know.
Venezuela,
because
maybe
the United States
because
they
have their
gas.
own they have their own oil and processing and shit. Venezuela maybe, but their fucking economy is so out of whack with inflation that it still costs $1 million fucking Venezuela dollars or whatever. Like,
so the dumbest mistake I ever made was when I went up to do the Linus Tech Tips Expo. I didn't fill my tank when I went across the border. So I drove across the border and I only had like a quarter tank or whatever. And by the time I got up there, I had to stop and get gas. So I stopped and filled up my tank on my Subaru. It was $76 to fill my tank on my Subaru. When I filled it to drive up to Canada, it was like, I want to say it was like $38.
Yeah.
It was more than double. And I was like, I had to look at the pump because I just turned it on, right? I just put the pump in, put the handle on. It's like, oh, it's $2 a gallon. This is going to be really cheap. No, it was a liter. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, what? I was so mad. I was like, dude, I should have just put like $20 in and drove across the border and filled up the rest of the way. But no, I mean, relatively speaking, we have really
Russia is cheaper right now.
What is the ruble worth now? Like 0.009 of a cent or something?
Nuts. Yeah. It's like, it takes like, last I remember seeing like a hard figure, it was like 112 rubles to $1. Something like that. It was nuts.
Yeah. You know what I did learn from this whole experience though so far is, and this will be your tech tip of the day, take some money out of the bank and put it in a safe. Like, just have something. It could be a couple $100. It could be a couple thousand. But gold's fine too. But the problem is you're not going to like pull up to a gas station. They're not going to just take it. True. So cash is still king, at least for now.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I had no idea until like these sanctions went into effect and everything. And we went into like super overdrive. I had no idea that you could actually remove access to somebody's money so easily. Like an entire country, we just cut them off from their money from the bank and everything because it's all digital, right?
All fake.
So make sure you have some money because it's like one day all it takes is your government going, oh shit, we got to do wartime production. We're going to seal your account.
Buy Bitcoin. Because then you can change it into any other foreign currency. Yeah, but
here's the problem: is if your currency is locked down and your internet is taken away, so you can't go to that foreign ministry and you can't gain access to that transition to that cash, it's worthless.
Right.
Well, I mean, you can still buy stuff with Bitcoin, though. I mean, you can still transact with other people that had cryptocurrency and stuff. But the point being is at least have some cash on hand. So, like, if a natural disaster hits and the banking system's taken out or something like that, you at least have enough money to like get in your car, get gasoline, trade and barter for things, and like get yourself safe.
Right.
I think that's a smart move. That's my tip of the day. But my God, I've never seen like shit go downhill so fast. Hey, Cool Twister, thank you for the $3 super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah. All right, guys. And on that note, I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, we can do it.
I think we had an amazing tech talk. I had a lot of fun.
This was really good.
This was a really good one. This is definitely one for the record books.
For sure.
David should be joining us again next week. We'll see how he's doing. He had some family obligations.
Family's always getting involved.
Oh, we do have a D&D game coming up, though.
That's right.
So
24th, it's a Thursday.
24th. I think David said he wanted to do it on my Twitch channel, but we can still talk back and forth and figure out where to. We'll put it wherever it does the most good. Yeah. Like we'll figure it out. But we're going to be doing a D&D game between David, AuxxZillary, myself, and I don't know if some other people are going to be there. Maybe it's Kiddo or something. I don't know. We're going to have a dungeon master who's going to be doing it. We're going to be live streaming a real Dungeons and Dragons game. And I don't know how any of it's going to work, but we're doing setup, I guess, next week, I think. Yeah. And then after that, we're doing the real game.
We'll probably do what they call session 0 ahead of time.
Do the stats and everything.
We'll probably character creation, a kind of an overview of like what kind of a game we want to play, like RP heavy, combat heavy, probably like an overview of the world or whatever he's got ready for us, rules and stuff like boundaries and whatnot. Sometimes, depending on the game and stuff, like they'll implement a sort of a card system. Like I feel like we're a group enough that like we can touch on weird topics and stuff. And
yeah, because I'm like, man, I'm totally cast Magic Missile 5,000 times.
Well, but sometimes, sometimes certain topics are uncomfortable for your players and stuff. Like we don't want to talk about rape or just sex stuff in general is like real weird. And so like, that kind of thing. Like we're not going to RP, boinking, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine we'll balance a line between PG and PG-13 or R and that kind of thing. But
okay, so I'm not going to be Adolf Linkler trying to rape the chicken outside of the bar. Okay,
yeah, but we'll cover those sorts of topics in session 0. I imagine that's usually how that works. And help with character creation, things like that.
Yeah. It'll be fun though. I can guarantee you this much. It'll be fun, and a lot of laughs are going to be happening. We're literally going to play Dungeons and Dragons with Rodney McKay from Stargate. Like how? I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah. Guys. It really doesn't.
I'm so excited. I've wanted to play like an actual like real D&D game for a long time. I hope we get to keep it going. Yeah,
I'm sure we will, man. If we have fun, it'll just keep.
I would love if it were a regular thing. Like I don't know if we do it every other week or something, but I'd love if we could make a consistent thing out of it.
Yeah, I need to socialize more, so I'm gonna try to push in that direction as much as possible.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, you guys know what to do next week. Same bat time, same bat place. We're moved to 11 a.m. Pacific time now, so one more hour so that Aux and I can like wake up and drink coffee and take a dump and everything and eat some breakfast. But 11 a.m. is our new time. Saturday next week. Hopefully, David will be back. If not, we'll let you know.
And if in the between time, you guys find any interesting things you'd like us to talk about? I've been starting to use hashtag Tech Talk Topic.
Ooh, triple T.
So use that. I will try and remember to search for that particular hashtag for user submitted topics. So Tech Talk Topic.
There you go.
Hashtag.
Just on Twitter. We'll find it. We'll
or just Tech Talk. That hashtag Tech Talk. That's good too. Or tag us directly.
We usually pick topics like on the day of, like actually, if we're honest, on the hour of. so or on the minute of. but if you guys throw some topics, then we can pick out of that pool before we start the show, and then you guys will be driving, so it'll be pretty fun. All right, we'll see you guys next week. If you want to see what we're going on or the happenings of what's going on, you can find all of our links in the video description. We both have our independent live streams that we do during the week over on Twitch. AuxxZillary does some PC building stuff. I do some just ranting about everything and saying a lot of really inappropriate shit. 18 plus. Just if you guys know, you know. And as far as David Hewlett, he has Tech Banditry. His links are also in the video description, so you can go check him out and look forward to that D&D game. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace out. And Charles Foley, thank you for that subscribe, man. Really appreciate it. All right, peace out, guys.